Second Chances in Elk Ridge. The Callahans of Elk Ridge. Written by Susanne. Please like and subscribe. Chapter 1. Lauren. The numbers on my computer screen blur together as I enter the last invoice of the day. $37.52 for industrial-grade paper towels. The glamorous life of a lodge bookkeeper. I blink hard and refocus, determined to finish these monthly reconciliations before I lose what's left of my concentration. The office is quiet except for the steady hum of the old desktop computer and the distant sound of dishes clinking from the kitchen where Declan's cleaning up after dinner service. Most of the guests have settled into their rooms or cabins for the night, and the staff has gone home to their own lives, their own families. I used to have that. A life beyond these walls, beyond these endless columns of numbers that keep the lodge running smoothly. Now this place is my life, and I'm not sure if that makes me pathetic or practical. I'm reaching for my coffee mug when movement outside the window catches my eye. Through the glass, I can see a familiar figure walking the stone paths that wind around the main lodge building. Even in the fading twilight, I'd know that silhouette anywhere. Liam. My heart does that stupid little skip it's been doing for the past 8 months, ever since Evie hired me and I found myself working alongside the man I used to call my husband. The man I walked away from when we were both too young and too broken to know how to save each other. He moves with the same methodical precision he's always had, checking the outdoor lighting fixtures, testing the security of the porch railings, making sure every detail is perfect for tomorrow's guests. His hair is a little longer than it used to be, and there are lines around his eyes that weren't there when we were 23 and thought we had forever figured out. But his shoulders still carry the weight of everyone else's world, just like they did back then. I watch him pause at the main entrance, pulling out his phone to make a note about something. Probably the loose board on the 3rd step that I mentioned in yesterday's maintenance report. He listens when I tell him things like that. He just doesn't listen when I try to tell him anything that matters. Not that I've tried lately. Not that I have the right to try. He looks up suddenly, as if he can feel my eyes on him, and for a split second our gazes meet through the window. My breath catches. Even from this distance, even through glass and gathering darkness, I can see the exact moment he recognizes me sitting here. He looks away, deliberately, and continues his rounds. The familiar ache settles in my chest, the one that's become as constant as breathing over the past few years. I tell myself I deserve it. I tell myself a lot of things that don't make the hurt any smaller. I turn back to my computer screen, but the numbers swim in front of me now. $37.52 for paper towels. $41 for cleaning supplies. $218 for linens. The cost of keeping this place running, of maintaining the illusion that everything is fine and functional and exactly as it should be. If only relationships came with invoices this clear. If only I could reconcile the mess I made of my marriage with the same precision I used to balance these books. Outside, Liam's footsteps fade as he moves around to check the back entrances. I know his routine by heart now, even though I pretend I don't pay attention. He'll spend another 20 minutes walking the perimeter, then head home to the small cabin he built on the edge of the property. He'll eat whatever Declan left for him in the staff kitchen, probably standing at the counter because sitting down to eat alone feels too much like admitting something. I know because I do the same thing. The cursor blinks at me expectantly, waiting for me to finish entering the last few invoices. But my hands are still on the keyboard, and my mind is still on the man outside who used to know exactly how I took my coffee and exactly what to say when I had nightmares. Who used to be mine, before I threw it all away. I force myself to type the remaining numbers, to save the file, to shut down the computer with the same care I use for everything else around here. Routine is safe. Routine doesn't ask questions or demand explanations I'm not ready to give. But as I gather my things and prepare to leave the office, I can't help glancing out the window one more time. The paths are empty now, the lodge settled into its nighttime quiet. Liam has finished his rounds and disappeared into whatever solitude he's built for himself. I turn off the office lights and lock the door behind me, my footsteps echoing in the empty hallway. Tomorrow I'll be back at this same desk, entering numbers, and pretending that seeing him doesn't still break my heart a little more each day. Tomorrow I'll keep pretending that working here isn't both the best and worst decision I've ever made. The staff break room is supposed to be empty at this hour, but I need coffee if I'm going to drive the winding mountain road home without falling asleep. The day shift is long gone, and the evening housekeeping crew finished an hour ago, leaving behind the familiar scent of lavender cleaning supplies and the quiet hum of the refrigerator. I'm reaching into the cabinet above the coffee maker when my fingers brush against something I haven't seen in years. My hand freezes as I recognize the shape. It's a ceramic mug with a chipped handle and faded lettering that reads Smoky Mountain National Park. But it's not the tourist logo that makes my breath catch. It's the tiny heart drawn in permanent marker on the handle, and the memory of the weekend when we bought it. I pull the mug down with trembling fingers, turning it over in my hands like it might disappear if I'm not careful. Our first anniversary trip. We'd driven to Tennessee on a whim, spent 2 days hiking and pretending we were just another young couple on vacation instead of newlyweds learning how to run a family business. I can still picture Liam laughing as I insisted on buying matching mugs from the cheesy gift shop, saying we needed something to remember our first real adventure as married people. He'd rolled his eyes and called me ridiculous, but I caught him smiling when he thought I wasn't watching. The mug is smaller than I remember, the ceramic worn smooth from countless uses. We drank our morning coffee from these mugs for exactly 3 months after that trip. Until his father died and everything changed. Until coffee became something we grabbed on the run between crisis management sessions, and sitting down together for anything felt like a luxury we couldn't afford. We had so many plans. I should throw it away. This little piece of ancient history has no business hiding in the back of a cabinet like some kind of shrine to my stupidity. I should toss it in the trash and pretend I never found it, just like I pretend I don't still catch myself looking for Liam in every room I enter. But instead, I find myself running my thumb over that faded heart, remembering the morning I drew it. Liam had surprised me with my favorite blueberry muffins from the kitchen, and I was so happy I thought I might actually burst from it. I drew the heart while he was telling me about his plans to expand the trail system, how we could offer guided night hikes and maybe even stargazing tours. We're going to build something amazing together, he'd said, his arm around my waist as we stood in this very spot. This place, this life. It's all ours. I believed him. For exactly 4 months and 16 days, I believed every word. Lauren? I jump, nearly dropping the mug as Evie's gentle voice breaks through my memories. My ex-mother-in-law is standing in the doorway, her silver hair slightly mussed and her reading glasses hanging from a chain around her neck. Even at this hour, she looks like exactly what she is. The heart and soul of this place, the woman who somehow manages to keep all of us functioning. I thought I heard someone in here, she says, stepping into the room with that careful grace she's always had. Her eyes drop to the mug in my hands, and I see the moment she recognizes it. Her expression softens, but she doesn't say anything right away. I was getting coffee before the drive home, I manage, setting the mug down on the counter like it's perfectly normal to be fondling old pottery at 9:30 at night. Long day with the month-end reconciliations. Evie moves to the refrigerator and pulls out a pitcher of her famous sweet tea, pouring herself a glass with the same unhurried precision she brings to everything. Those numbers can be tricky. But I suspect that's not what's keeping you here so late. I busy myself with the coffee maker, measuring grounds, and adding water like it requires my complete concentration. I like to make sure everything's accurate before I submit the reports. You know how Liam is about the details. I do know how Liam is, she says quietly. Just like I know how you are. There's something in her tone that makes me pause, my hand still on the coffee pot. When I glance at her, she's watching me with those sharp blue eyes that see everything, the ones that made her such a formidable businesswoman and an even more formidable grandmother figure to everyone who works here. The mug was in the back of the cabinet, I say finally, because ignoring it feels more obvious than addressing it. I haven't seen it in years. I imagine not. She takes a sip of her tea, studying me over the rim of her glass. I kept meaning to clear out some of the old things, but somehow I never got around to it. Funny how items find their way back to us when we need them most. I don't need it, I say quickly. Too quickly. I was actually going to throw it away. It's just taking up space. Evie sets down her glass and moves closer, her eyes never leaving my face. Lauren, sweetheart. You know you can talk to me, don't you? About anything? The kindness in her voice almost undoes me. This woman gave me a job when I had nowhere else to go, welcomed me back into the Lodge family like I hadn't destroyed her son's happiness and disappeared for 3 years. She's never asked questions I wasn't ready to answer, never pushed for explanations I couldn't give. But the weight of her concern, the gentle invitation in her words, it's almost too much. I'm fine, I say, turning back to the coffee maker as it starts to brew. Just tired. It's been a long month. It's been a long 8 months, she corrects gently. For both of you. My hand still on the counter. I don't trust myself to look at her, don't trust what she might see in my face if I do. Evie. I'm not asking you to tell me anything you're not ready to share, she continues, her voice soft but steady. But I want you to know that this family, this lodge, it's still yours if you want it. It was always yours. The words hit me like a physical blow, stealing my breath and making my eyes burn with tears I refuse to shed. Not here. Not now. Not when I've worked so hard to keep everything carefully compartmentalized. I should get home, I manage, abandoning the coffee and gathering my purse from the counter. Early morning tomorrow. And I need to. I've been looking at some opportunities that might be opening up after my contract ends. The words slip out before I can stop them, born from the pressure of Evie's kindness and my own exhaustion with pretending everything is fine. Of course. Evie doesn't try to stop me, but I can feel her watching as I move toward the door. Lauren? I pause, not quite turning around. Whatever you're considering, wherever those opportunities might take you, just remember that some chances don't come around twice. And some do. The words settle between us like a gentle warning wrapped in hope. The mug will be here when you're ready for it, she adds softly. I nod once, not trusting my voice, and escape into the hallway before she can say anything else. Before the kindness in her words completely breaks down the walls I've spent years building. Behind me, I hear the quiet sound of ceramic against countertop as she sets the mud back in its place. Waiting. Like everything else in this place that once felt like home. Like everything I'm not ready to claim again.
Chapter 2. Liam. The morning staff meeting is supposed to start at 8 sharp, but I'm standing in the main lodge conference room at 7:30, staring at spreadsheets I've already reviewed twice. Numbers don't lie, don't change their minds, don't walk away when things get complicated. Unlike people. Unlike her. I adjust the papers for the 3rd time and check my watch. Declan will be here any minute with coffee and whatever pastry he's been experimenting with this week. Connor's probably still out on the trails doing his morning rounds, and Jameson. Well, Jameson runs on his own timeline, which usually means he'll slide in right at 8 with Bear at his heels and some excuse about helping a guest with directions. The door opens and my mother walks in, carrying her usual cup of herbal tea and wearing the expression she gets when she's about to deliver news I won't like. Morning, sweetheart, she says, settling into her chair at the head of the oval table. Sleep well? Fine. It's a lie, but a necessary one. I've been sleeping fine for exactly 0 nights since Lauren started working here 8 months ago. You're early. So are you. She studies my face over her teacup. In fact, you've been early to everything lately. Even more than usual. I don't respond because there's nothing to say that won't lead to a conversation I'm not having. Instead, I flip through the weekly maintenance reports, though I could recite every item from memory. Liam. Her voice carries that gentle authority that's kept this family and this business running for decades. We need to talk about Lauren. My hand still's on the papers. What about her? She's thinking about leaving. The words hit me like a physical blow, but I keep my expression neutral. Professional. Her contract was always temporary. We knew she might not stay permanently. Her contract runs through the end of next month, Mom says carefully. But she mentioned yesterday that she might not renew. That she's been looking at opportunities elsewhere. Something cold settles in my chest, but I force myself to nod like this is just another staffing issue. Like losing her again won't hollow me out completely. We'll need to start interviewing replacements then, I say, making a note on my tablet. I can reach out to the staffing agency this week. Mom is quiet for a long moment, and when I look up, she's watching me with those sharp blue eyes that see everything I'm trying to hide. That's it, she asks. That's all you have to say? What else is there? I close the tablet and lean back in my chair, aiming for casual. If she wants to leave, she wants to leave. We can't force people to stay where they don't want to be. The irony of those words isn't lost on me. 3 years ago, I would have done anything to make her stay. Would have begged, bargained, changed everything about myself if it meant keeping her. Instead, I watched her walk away without a fight, too proud and too hurt to ask her to reconsider. Liam. The conference room door swings open and Jameson bounds in with his usual morning energy, Bear trotting beside him. He is wearing a Mountain Laurel Lodge polo that's already wrinkled and hiking boots that have seen better days. He's carrying a stack of activity schedules and wearing the kind of grin that usually means he's got some new idea that's going to cost us money. Morning. He drops into his chair and Bear immediately settles at his feet. Beautiful day out there. Perfect weather for the guided nature walk this afternoon. How many signed up? I ask, grateful for the distraction. 12 so far, but I'm betting we'll get a few more after breakfast when people see how gorgeous it is outside. He shuffles through his papers. Oh, and that family with the twin boys wants to do the advanced rock climbing session tomorrow. I told them we'd need Connor to assess their skill level first. Good. I make another note. Where is Connor, anyway? Talking to Sarah about catering the staff appreciation barbecue next month, Jameson says. Apparently she's got some new dessert recipe she wants to test out on us. Something with mountain berries. Mom clears her throat. Before we get too far into the weekly updates, there's something else we need to discuss. Lauren's considering not renewing her contract. Jameson's cheerful expression falters. Wait, what? Why? That's what we're trying to figure out, Mom says, her eyes still on me. She's been doing great work, Jameson continues, completely oblivious to the undercurrents in the room. The books are cleaner than they've been in years, and she's caught at least 3 billing errors that could have cost us serious money. Plus, she actually gets along with the housekeeping staff, which is more than I can say for the last 2 bookkeepers we hired. All true, I say evenly. But if she's not happy here? Who says she's not happy? Jameson interrupts. I mean, she seems fine to me. Quiet, but fine. She always asks about Bear when she sees us, and last week she helped me reorganize the activity supply closet without me even asking. The casual way he talks about her daily interactions makes something twist in my chest. How many conversations has she had with my family that I know nothing about? How many small kindnesses has she shown while I've been carefully avoiding her? The point is, I say, cutting off that line of thinking, if she wants to explore other opportunities, that's her choice. We should respect it and plan accordingly. Jameson stares at me like I've suggested we set the lodge on fire. Seriously? That's your response? She's an employee, I say sharply. A good employee, but still just an employee. If she's not satisfied with the position, we'll find someone who is. The room goes quiet. Even Bear seems to sense the tension, lifting his head to look between us with concerned golden eyes. Just an employee, Jameson repeats slowly. Right. Not the reason why you take the long way to your office to avoid walking past hers. Not the reason you've been stress-eating Declan's leftover bread every night for 8 months. Jameson, Mom warns gently. But my little brother is on a roll now, leaning forward with the kind of earnest intensity that makes him so good at his job and so impossible to ignore. Liam, I love you, but Lauren's not just some random employee and everyone knows it. She's my ex-wife, I snap, the words coming out harsher than intended. Which is exactly why keeping things professional is the smart thing to do. For everyone. Jameson falls back in his chair, clearly not expecting that level of honesty. Bear whines softly and shifts closer to his owner's legs. The silence stretches until Mom sets down her teacup with a gentle clink. Well, she says calmly. Now that we've established the obvious, perhaps we can have an actual conversation about this. I run a hand through my hair, already regretting the outburst. This is exactly why I don't talk about Lauren. Why I keep everything locked down and professional. The moment I let my guard slip, everything I've been holding back comes spilling out. There's nothing to discuss, I say finally. If she wants to leave, she can leave. End of story. Is it, though? Jameson asks quietly. End of story? I look at him and see something I don't expect. Not the usual teasing or the casual curiosity about family drama. There's genuine concern there, and maybe a little sadness. Yes, I say, but the word feels like a lie even as I say it. It is. I'm heading back to my office after breakfast, my mind still churning from my mother's news and Jameson's pointed observations, when I turn the corner toward the administrative wing and nearly collide with Lauren. She's coming out of her small office, laptop bag slung over her shoulder and a tablet in her hands, her honey blonde hair slightly mussed from whatever accounting project she's been tackling. She stops short when she sees me, and for a moment we're standing too close in the narrow hallway, close enough that I catch the faint scent of her lavender soap. Liam. Her voice is carefully neutral, but I don't miss the way her grip tightens on the tablet. I was coming to find you. The monthly reports are ready for your review. Right. I take a step back, giving us both space to breathe. You could have just emailed them. I could have, she says, her fingers swiping across the tablet screen. But there are a couple of items that might need discussion. The kitchen expenses, mainly. She holds out the tablet, but her hand isn't quite steady. Declan went slightly over budget on specialty ingredients this month. Nothing major, but I wanted to flag it. I reach for the tablet, and somehow our fingers brush as she passes it to me. The contact lasts maybe half a second, but it might as well be an electric shock. Her breath catches. It's barely audible, but I hear it. I've always heard everything when it comes to her. She pulls her hand back quickly, wrapping her arms around herself like she's cold. The kitchen variance is on the second tab, she says, looking somewhere over my left shoulder. Guest satisfaction scores for the restaurant have been exceptional, so the investment seems justified. I swipe through the screens without really seeing them, my focus split between the professional task at hand and the way she's standing with her shoulders rigid, like she's bracing for impact. Specialty ingredients, I repeat, finding the relevant spreadsheet. For the farm-to-table menu? Yes. She nods once, efficient. I can email you the detailed breakdown later, but I thought you should see the overall numbers first. I scan the rows of numbers. The silence stretches between us, heavy with 8 months of careful avoidance and 3 years of unresolved history. I can feel her watching me, and when I glance up, she looks away quickly. Looks good to me. I hand the tablet back, making sure our fingers don't touch this time. Thank you. She clutches it against her chest like armor. I should get back to work. The quarterly tax forms won't file themselves. She's already turning to leave when the words escape before I can stop them. Lauren. She freezes, her back still to me. The work you've been doing, I say, my voice rougher than intended. It's good. Really good. The best our books have looked in years. Her shoulders seem to relax slightly, but she doesn't turn around. Thank you, she says quietly. That means, thank you. And then she's walking away, her footsteps echoing in the hallway, leaving me standing there with the taste of all the things I didn't say burning on my tongue.
Chapter 3. Lauren. The storage room behind the main office smells like dust and old memories. I've been putting off this project for weeks, but with the quarterly audit coming up, I need to organize the archived financial records and clear out anything that's past its retention period. It's the kind of tedious task that keeps my hands busy and my mind focused on something other than the fact that I'm considering leaving the one place that still feels like home. Even if it's a home I'm not sure I deserve. I'm 3 boxes deep into invoices from 2019 when I find it, tucked behind a stack of old guest registration logs like someone tried to hide it but couldn't quite bring themselves to throw it away. A small cardboard box with L and L written on the side in Evie's careful handwriting, the letters slightly faded but still unmistakably hers. My heart stops. L and L, Liam and Lauren. I stare at the box for a long moment, my hand still on the dusty invoice I was about to file. I should put it back where I found it, pretend I never saw it, finish my work and go home to my quiet apartment where the only memories are the ones I choose to keep. Instead, I find myself lifting the box carefully, surprised by how light it is. Whatever's inside doesn't weigh much, but somehow it feels heavier than everything else I've been carrying. I set it on the small desk in the corner of the storage room and lift the lid with trembling fingers. The first thing I see is a photo, and the sight of it steals my breath. It's from our wedding reception, taken right here at the lodge. We're dancing. I'm in my white, flowy dress, Liam's arms around my waist, both of us laughing at something someone said. The joy on our faces is so pure, so uncomplicated, that it hurts to look at. We were so young. 22 and 24, thinking we had everything figured out. Thinking love was enough to weather any storm. Beneath the photo are more pictures. Our engagement party in the garden. The two of us hiking one of the lodge trails in matching Mountain Laurel Lodge t-shirts that Evie had made special for us. A candid shot of Liam teaching me how to use the old espresso machine in the kitchen, both of us grinning like idiots. Each photo is a small knife to the chest, but I can't stop looking. This is what we were. This is what we had before grief and fear and my own terrible choices destroyed it all. Under the photos are other remnants of our brief time as husband and wife. Name tags from lodge events where we worked side by side. Lauren Callahan, guest services, and Liam Callahan, manager, printed in the same neat font. A ticket stub from the movie we saw on our 6-month anniversary. A dried mountain laurel flower that I think might be from my wedding bouquet. And at the very bottom, sealed in an envelope with my handwriting on the front, is a letter I wrote but he apparently never read. The envelope flap is still sealed, still tucked down exactly as I left it 3 years ago. The envelope is cream-colored, slightly yellowed with age, and my name for him is written in the careful script I used back then, for my husband. Seeing those words in my own handwriting makes my chest tight. I used to call him that all the time in those early months. My husband said this, or my husband thinks that, like I couldn't quite believe he was real, that he was mine. I pick up the envelope with shaking hands. I remember writing this letter, remember the tears that fell on the paper as I tried to find words for grief too big to contain. It was 3 days after we lost the baby, 3 days after I came home from the hospital to a house that felt too quiet and a husband who'd already disappeared into work and responsibility. I'd written this letter in the middle of the night when I couldn't sleep, when the space beside me in bed felt like a canyon instead of just empty sheets. I'd poured everything into it. The loss, the loneliness, the desperate need for him to see me, to talk to me, to grieve with me instead of around me. I'd left it on his desk at the lodge the night before I drove away. Right there next to his coffee mug and his daily schedules, where he couldn't possibly miss it. I thought if he read it, if he understood what I'd been carrying alone, maybe he'd come after me. Maybe he'd fight for us. But he never called. Never came. And 3 weeks later, when the job opening came, offering me a clean slate and a life without ghosts, I convinced myself that Liam had read my words and decided I wasn't worth fighting for. Now, holding it again after all these years, I wonder what would have happened if I'd been brave enough to give it to him. If I'd been brave enough to fight for us instead of running away. The storage room feels too small suddenly, the walls pressing in around me. I should put everything back, seal up this box of memories and return it to its hiding place behind the guest logs. I should finish my work and go home and continue the careful life I built around the edges of my regret. But I can't seem to let go of the letter. It's proof of who I was then, who we were together. Proof that our love was real, even if I destroyed it. Lauren? Evie's voice from the doorway makes me jump, nearly dropping the envelope. I thought I heard someone back here. I turned toward her, clutching the letter against my chest like a guilty secret. I was organizing the archived files. Her eyes move from my face to the open box on the desk, and I see the moment she recognizes it. Her expression softens, and she steps into the storage room, closing the door gently behind her. I wondered when someone would find that, she says quietly. I've been moving it from place to place for 3 years, never quite able to throw it away. I'm sorry, I say quickly. I didn't mean to pry. I was. You weren't prying. She moves closer, her gaze lingering on the scattered photos. Those memories belong to you as much as anyone. I look down at the letter in my hands, then back at her kind face. I should put it back. Should you? There's something in her tone that makes me pause. Or should you maybe consider that some things are found when they're meant to be found? The envelope feels like it's burning against my palms. Evie, I can't. This was a long time ago. We're different people now. Are you? She asks gently. Because from where I'm standing, you look exactly like a woman who's still carrying around love she never got to properly express. The words hit too close to home, and I have to look away. It doesn't matter now. Too much has happened. Too much has been broken. Broken things can be mended, she says, reaching out to touch the edge of one of the photos. Not always the same as they were, but sometimes stronger for having been repaired. I want to believe her. I want to believe that some mistakes can be undone, that some chances can be given again. But the weight of what I did, what I destroyed when I left, feels too heavy to carry back to him. He'll never forgive me, I whisper. Evie's smile is sad but sure. Sweetheart, my son has been carrying a torch for you for 3 years. The question isn't whether he can forgive you. The question is whether you can forgive yourself. She pats my shoulder gently and heads toward the door, pausing only to look back at me one more time. Take your time in here, she says. But don't take forever. Some chances don't come around twice. I need air. I need space. I need to be anywhere but in that storage room with the ghosts of my marriage scattered across a dusty desk. The afternoon sun is warm on my face, but there's a crispness to the air that speaks of autumn coming, of seasons changing whether we're ready or not. My feet carry me along the stone path that winds around the main lodge building, past the herb garden where Evie grows her healing teas and the fire pit where guests gather for evening s'mores. I'm not consciously choosing a destination, but somehow I'm not surprised when I find myself at the gazebo. It sits on a small rise overlooking the property, positioned to catch the best view of the mountains and the lodge's garden spread out below. When Liam and I were married, we used to come here in the evenings after the dinner service was done and the guests had settled into their cabins. We'd sit on the bench inside and plan our future. We'd talk about all the improvements we wanted to make to the lodge, the trips we'd take when things were less busy, the children we'd raise who would grow up running these same paths. Now the gazebo is wrapped in scaffolding and plastic sheeting. The roof has been stripped down to the bare beams, and I can see new lumber stacked nearby, along with tools and what looks like copper roofing material gleaming in the afternoon light. I step closer, careful to avoid the construction zone, and peer through a gap in the plastic sheeting. The interior is gutted, but the basic structure is the same. The same curved bench where we used to sit. The same stone floor where we danced in the rain during our wedding reception when everyone else ran for cover. Careful there, a familiar voice calls out, and I look up to see Max emerging from behind the gazebo with an armload of lumber. There's some loose boards around the foundation. Sorry, I say, stepping back. I didn't mean to get in your way. I was just. I trail off, not sure how to explain what I was doing without sounding pathetic. Checking out the progress? Max sets down the lumber and wipes his hands on his work jeans. It's going to be beautiful when it's finished. We're replacing the whole roof with copper that'll patina over time, and reinforcing the foundation so it'll last another 50 years. It sounds wonderful. I manage a smile, though my chest feels tight looking at this place that holds so many memories being torn apart and rebuilt. When do you think it'll be done? A few more weeks, maybe a month if the weather holds. He picks up a piece of the copper roofing and turns it over in his hands. The copper roof was Sabrina's idea. She said it would age beautifully and complement the mountain setting. Sabrina, the woman who fled her old life and found love while learning to restore broken things. I wonder if there's a metaphor there, or if I'm just seeing hope where none exists. That's perfect, I say, and I mean it. The gazebo deserves to be beautiful again, deserves to be a place where new couples make new memories. Even if those memories won't be mine. Lauren. Max's voice carries a note of warning, and I look up to see him gesturing toward the main path. You might want to. But it's too late. Liam is already walking up the path toward us, his long stride covering the ground quickly. He's wearing his usual work uniform of jeans and a lodge polo, and he has that focused expression he gets when he's checking on projects around the property. The same expression he used to wear when he'd find me here in the evenings, back when his face would light up at the sight of me instead of going carefully blank. I take a step back, then another, hoping the scaffolding and plastic sheeting will hide me. But Max is watching me with concern, and I realize that trying to hide will only make things more awkward. I should go, I murmur to Max, let you get back to work. Lauren, he starts, but I'm already moving, slipping around the back of the gazebo and down the slope toward the garden paths. I can hear Liam's voice behind me as he reaches Max, asking about the copper delivery and the timeline for completion. His tone is all business, but there's something else underneath it. A warmth that he reserves for his family, for the people he cares about. I used to be one of those people. I keep walking until I'm hidden among the herb gardens, surrounded by lavender and rosemary and the mountain mint that Evie uses in her evening teas. From here, I can still hear their voices but not their words, can still see the gazebo framed by late afternoon light. Liam is gesturing at something on the roof structure, and Max is nodding, pointing to different sections of the rebuild. They look like what they are. A family, working together to preserve something beautiful and make it even better than it was before. I watch until Liam finishes his inspection and heads back toward the lodge, his purposeful stride carrying him away from me and back to his responsibilities. Only then do I allow myself to really look at the gazebo again, to imagine how it will look when it's finished. Copper roof gleaming. Stone cleaned and restored. Bench rebuilt and ready for new couples to sit and dream about their futures. It will be beautiful. It will be perfect. And it will be a monument to everything I threw away when I was too scared and too young to fight for what mattered most. I turn away before the men can see me standing here like some kind of ghost haunting their past, and I head back toward the lodge. Back to my small office and my neat columns of numbers and the careful life I built in the margins of the place that used to be home. But as I walk, I can't stop thinking about what Max said. About how the copper roof will age and patina over time, growing more beautiful with the years. Maybe that's what healing looks like. Maybe that's what hope looks like. Or maybe I'm just desperate enough to see meaning in metal and weather, to find promise in a renovation project that has nothing to do with the broken pieces of my own life.
Chapter 4. Liam. The late afternoon sun catches the copper sheeting as I examine Max's work on the gazebo roof, and I have to admit it's going to be stunning when it's finished. The metal gleams like new pennies now, but in a few years it'll develop that distinctive green patina that makes old copper so beautiful. It was a brilliant suggestion from Sabrina. Practical and elegant at the same time. The weather stripping around the base looks good, I tell Max, running my hand along the newly sealed foundation. No signs of moisture getting in. Should be solid for decades, he agrees, wiping sweat from his forehead with the back of his hand. Sabrina has been researching historical restoration techniques. Apparently, the original gazebo had copper details that were replaced with cheaper materials somewhere along the way. I nod, making a mental note to thank Sabrina for her research. It's funny how outsiders sometimes see things we've been looking at our whole lives without really noticing. Fresh eyes, fresh perspective. Speaking of restoration, Max continues, sorting through a pile of trim pieces. This whole place has been getting a makeover lately. New roof on cabin 12, fresh paint on the main lodge, updated landscaping around the fire pit. Even brought in help for Aunt Edie with the books. There it is. The subtle dig I should have seen coming. Max has never been one to avoid uncomfortable topics, and apparently today he's decided my personal life is fair game for discussion. Mom said she was slowing down, I say evenly, focusing on the gazebo's support beams rather than looking at him. That she wanted to focus more on the big picture stuff. Right, Max agrees, but there's something in his tone that suggests he doesn't entirely buy Edie's explanation either. And Lauren just happened to be available and qualified and willing to work for what we could afford to pay. She's very good at her job, I add, because it's true and because deflecting feels safer than examining the convenient timing of it all. She is, Max agrees. Detailed, efficient, catches things that even Aunt Edie might have missed. Plus, she knows the lodge operations better than any outside hire would. Of course she does. She lived here for 4 months as my wife, learned every aspect of the business from my mother herself. But I don't say that out loud. Max sets down his hammer and leans against the gazebo railing, clearly settling in for a conversation I don't want to have. The lodge is running better than it has in years. Business is up, guest satisfaction is at an all-time high, the family's working together like a well-oiled machine. That's good, I say carefully. That's what we want. It is, he says. But you know what's funny? With all these improvements, all this positive change happening around here, there's one thing that hasn't budged an inch. I know where this is going, but I ask anyway. What's that? You. The word lands between us like a stone dropped in still water, sending ripples through the careful peace I've been maintaining for months. I straighten up from examining the foundation and finally look at my cousin, seeing the combination of affection and frustration in his expression. I'm fine, I say, the automatic response I've been giving everyone for 3 years. Are you? Max crosses his arms, his work-worn hands stark against his flannel shirt. Because from where I'm standing, you look like a man who's been holding his breath for so long he's forgotten how to exhale. I don't know what you want me to say. I want you to say something real for once. His voice is gentle but insistent. Liam, I've been watching you since Lauren came back, and it's like you've turned yourself into a ghost. You go through all the motions, work, family dinners, checking on projects, but you're not really here. I turn back to the gazebo, running my hands along the new copper flashing. I'm managing the lodge. I'm taking care of the family. I'm doing exactly what I'm supposed to be doing. You're surviving, Max corrects. There's a difference between surviving and living, and you've been stuck in survival mode since your dad died. The mention of my father hits like it always does, a sharp reminder of the moment everything changed. The phone call in the middle of the night. The frantic drive to the hospital. The doctors telling us there was nothing they could do. And then the overwhelming weight of suddenly being responsible for everyone and everything. Someone had to step up, I say quietly. And you did. You kept the lodge running, kept the family together, made sure everyone else was okay. Max moves closer, his voice softer now. But Liam, that was 3 years ago. The crisis is over. The lodge is stable. The family is thriving. When do you get to stop carrying the weight of the world and actually live your life? I don't have an answer for that. Don't know how to explain that carrying the weight has become so automatic I'm not sure who I'd be without it. Don't know how to tell him that letting go feels like betraying everyone who's counting on me. Besides, Max continues, grieving isn't the same as healing. You can't honor your dad's memory by turning yourself into a monument to duty. I'm not. You are. He interrupts, but not unkindly. You've made yourself into this perfect, responsible, untouchable version of yourself. And maybe that worked when everything was falling apart, but now? Now it's just keeping you from having the life Dad would have wanted for you. I stare at the mountains in the distance, their peaks touched with early autumn color. When Lauren and I used to sit in this gazebo, we'd watch the seasons change and talk about how beautiful it was that nothing stayed the same forever. How change was natural, necessary, even when it was hard. She's thinking about leaving, I say finally, the words coming out before I can stop them. Max is quiet for a moment. I know. Mom told you? Didn't have to. It's written all over your face every time someone mentions her name. He picks up his hammer again, turning it over in his hands. The question is, what are you going to do about it? Nothing. The word tastes bitter. What can I do? She left once before. If she wants to leave again, that's her choice. Is it? Max looks at me directly, his blue eyes serious. Or are you making the choice for her by being so determined to keep your distance that she thinks you don't want her here? I'm heading back toward the lodge when I hear a child's wail. The sound cuts through the evening air and makes every adult within earshot stop what they're doing. I follow the sound around to the front lawn where I find a small crowd of kids gathered near the stone steps. It looks like the tail end of one of Jameson's nature activities. There are pine cones and leaves scattered around, and I can see Bear lounging in the shade nearby. A boy, maybe 6 years old, sits on the bottom step clutching his knee and crying like the world is ending while the other kids hover around him with the fascinated concern that children have for dramatic injuries. And kneeling in front of the boy, speaking in a voice so gentle it makes my chest ache, is Lauren. I know it hurts, sweetheart, she's saying, her tone completely calm despite the child's distress. But let's take a look and see what we're dealing with, okay? Sometimes things look scarier than they actually are. She has a first aid kit open beside her on the step, and I can see she's already cleaned the scrape on his knee. It's minor, barely more than a scratch, but to a 6-year-old it might as well be a mortal wound. It's bleeding, the boy hiccups, fresh tears streaming down his face. It is bleeding a little, Lauren agrees, not dismissing his fear but not feeding into it either. But you know what? That's actually good news. It means your body is already working to fix itself. The bleeding will wash away any dirt that got in there, and then your skin will start growing back together like magic. I should walk away. Should continue on to the lodge and let her handle this minor crisis the way she's clearly handling it with competence and kindness. But I can't seem to move, can't stop watching the way she interacts with this scared little boy. Like magic, the boy asks, his sobs subsiding into sniffles. Exactly like magic, Lauren says seriously, opening a bandage. In fact, I think you might need a special superhero bandage for this. What do you think? Batman or Spider-Man? Spider-Man, the boy says immediately, his tears forgotten in the face of this important decision. Excellent choice. Lauren carefully applies the bandage, her movements gentle and sure. There. Now you're all fixed up, and Spider-Man is going to help protect your knee while it heals. The boy examines his newly bandaged knee with obvious pride, and just then a woman hurries over from the lodge entrance, clearly the boy's mother. Tommy! I heard crying. Are you okay? She looks between Lauren and her son, taking in the first aid kit and the fresh bandage. I got hurt, but the nice lady fixed me with Spider-Man. Tommy announces proudly, showing off his bandage. Oh, thank you so much, the mother says to Lauren, relief evident in her voice. I was just inside talking to reception when I heard him crying. These nature activities are wonderful, but 6-year-olds and outdoor exploration don't always mix safely. It was nothing, Lauren tells her, packing up the first aid kit. Kids and scrapes go together like mountain air and esmores. Just keep it clean and dry, and he'll be good as new. As the mother takes Tommy's hand and heads inside for dinner, Lauren stands and brushes off her knees. That's when she notices me standing there, and the easy, natural smile she'd been wearing for the boy fades into something more guarded. Liam, she says, her voice returning to the careful neutral tone she uses with me now. I didn't see you there. Minor medical emergency? I ask, nodding toward where the family disappeared into the lodge. Very minor. She holds up the first aid kit. Scraped knee, wounded pride, and a serious case of being 6 years old. Nothing a Spider-Man bandage couldn't fix. There's an awkward pause where we both seem to realize we're standing here talking like normal people instead of tiptoeing around each other like we have been for months. The sunset light catches the gold in her hair, and for a moment I'm transported back to evenings when conversations between us were easy, natural, filled with laughter instead of careful politeness. "You were always good with kids," I say before I can stop myself. She looks away quickly. "I should get this back to the office," she says, indicating the first aid kit. "And I need to finish the quarterly reports." She's already moving toward the lodge entrance when I notice the white envelope on the stone step where she'd been kneeling. It must have fallen out of her purse or pocket while she was tending to the boy. "Lauren," I call after her. "You dropped something." But she's already inside, the heavy wooden door closing behind her with a soft thud. I pick up the envelope, intending to catch up with her and return it, but something about the handwriting on the front stops me cold. It's addressed in Lauren's careful script, but not to anyone in particular. Just 3 words that make my heart stumble: "For my husband." The envelope is cream-colored, slightly yellowed with age, and the edges are soft like it's been handled many times. The flap is sealed, but barely. Time and handling have loosened the adhesive so it would take almost nothing to open it. I should give it back to her immediately. Should respect her privacy and not read something that clearly wasn't meant for my eyes. But my hands are trembling as I hold it, and I can't stop staring at those words in her handwriting. For my husband. I was her husband once. I was the person she wrote letters to, the one she shared her thoughts and fears and dreams with. Before everything fell apart. Before grief and responsibility and my own stupidity drove a wedge between us that she eventually decided wasn't worth bridging. I turned the envelope over in my hands, my thumb tracing the edge of the flap. It would be so easy to open it, to finally understand what was going through her mind during those last terrible weeks of our marriage. To know if there was something I could have done differently, something I could have said that might have made her stay. The lodge's front door opens and Declan emerges. The sight of my brother snaps me out of whatever trance I'd fallen into, and I quickly shove the envelope into my jacket pocket. "Hey," Declan says, pausing beside me. "Everything okay? You look like you've seen a ghost." "Fine," I lie, my voice rougher than intended. He gives me a look that suggests he doesn't believe me, but he doesn't push. "Okay. Well, I'm heading home. Jules is making her famous pasta tonight, and I promised Mia I'd help with her math homework." I nod, not trusting myself to speak normally. The envelope feels like it's burning a hole in my pocket, and I'm acutely aware of its weight with every breath. "See you tomorrow," Declan says, heading toward his truck. I wait until his taillights disappear down the drive before I pull the envelope out again. In the fading light, Lauren's handwriting looks even more fragile, more vulnerable. Whatever's inside this envelope, she wrote it during the worst time in our lives. When we were both drowning in grief and fear and had no idea how to reach for each other. I slip the envelope back into my pocket and head inside, telling myself I'll decide what to do with it later.
Chapter 5. Lauren. The weekly family breakfast is running longer than usual, which means I'm already mentally cataloging the invoices I need to process this afternoon and the budget reports that are due tomorrow. But Evie has that look on her face, the one that means she's building up to something important, so I force myself to focus on her words instead of my growing to-do list. "And that brings us to Founders Weekend," she's saying, her hands folded neatly on the round table. "I know it's only 6 weeks away, but this year's event is going to be special." Around the table, the family exchanges glances. I feel that familiar mix of belonging and awkwardness that comes with being included in these intimate family discussions. Founders Weekend has always been a big deal at Mountain Laurel Lodge. A celebration of the lodge's history and the Callahan family's legacy in Elk Ridge. But from the way Evie's eyes are practically sparkling, this year is going to be something more. "Special how?" Declan asks, leaning back in his chair. "Are we talking bigger guest list, fancier menu, or just your usual level of perfectionism turned up to 11? "All of the above," Evie says with a smile that's equal parts fond and exasperated. "I've been thinking about how much this place has grown and changed over the years. All of you kids building your lives here, finding love, creating families. It feels like the perfect time to celebrate not just where we've been, but where we're heading. I can see why she's excited. The lodge has been through so much growth lately. New marriages, new family members, renovations, and improvements. It really does feel like a place that's not just surviving but thriving, evolving with each generation while maintaining its heart. So we're thinking a weekend-long celebration, Liam says, making notes on his tablet. Friday night cocktail reception, Saturday activities and dinner, Sunday brunch send-off? Exactly. Evie beams at him with obvious pride. But I want this to be more than just a party. I wanted to honor our roots while celebrating new beginnings. The theme is legacy and renewal. We're acknowledging the foundation we've built while looking forward to what comes next. Legacy and renewal. The words hit me harder than they should, stirring up emotions I've been working hard to keep buried. There's something achingly appropriate about a celebration focused on new beginnings happening now, when I'm wrestling with whether I have any kind of future here. I love it, Connor says, his enthusiasm evident. We could incorporate some of the old photos from the archives, maybe set up displays showing how the lodge has evolved over the years. And I could create a special menu featuring recipes that have been served here since the beginning, Declan adds, already getting that creative gleam in his eye. Updated for modern tastes but honoring the traditions. Perfect, Evie says. Jameson, I'll need you to coordinate activities that span multiple generations. Things that appeal to everyone from the longtime guests who've been coming here for years to the young families just discovering us. On it, Jameson agrees, Bear's tail thumping against his leg as if the dog is also excited about party planning. Max, I'll need your help with the logistics. Seating arrangements, lighting, making sure we have enough space for everyone. Absolutely, Max nods. Sabrina's already offered to help with decorations. She has some ideas about incorporating natural elements that honor the mountain setting. And Evie continues, turning to her daughter, this is going to be our biggest event coordination challenge yet. I'll need your expertise to make sure everything runs smoothly. I'm already making lists, Ivy says with a grin, pulling out her phone to show a screen full of notes. Guest flow, timing coordination, backup plans for weather. The works. Maddox has offered to help with any safety protocols we might need for the larger crowds. I listen to the family discuss details and assignments, feeling that familiar mix of belonging and distance that's defined my time here. They include me in their discussions, value my input on budgets and logistics, but I'm still aware that I'm not really family. Not anymore. Not since I gave up that right 3 years ago. Lauren, Evie says, and my attention snaps back to the present. I have a special assignment for you. Of course, I say, pulling out my own tablet. Whatever you need. I want you to work with Liam on the overall event coordination. Ivy is busy with weddings and corporate events. The words land in the room like a stone dropped in still water. I can feel everyone's attention shift to me, can sense the subtle tension that always accompanies any mention of Liam and me working together. Across the table, Liam has gone very still, his pen frozen halfway through whatever note he was making. Evie, I start carefully, I'm not sure that's the best. You're the logical choice, she continues smoothly, as if she hasn't just suggested the professional equivalent of walking through a minefield. You know the lodge's operations better than anyone except family, you have experience with logistics from your previous job, and you understand our budget constraints better than anyone. All true. All perfectly reasonable justifications that have nothing to do with the real reason she's making this suggestion. I catch the knowing look in her eyes and realize this isn't about logistics or qualifications. This is about her belief that broken things can be mended, that some chances are worth taking. Besides, she adds, this event is about legacy and renewal. About honoring the past while building something new. I can't think of anyone better suited to help with that than the two of you. The subtext isn't even subtle anymore. She might as well have stood up and announced that she's staging an intervention disguised as event planning. I think that's a great idea, Declan says, and I catch the slight smile playing at the corners of his mouth. You two always worked well together. When we were married, I say quietly, the words slipping out before I can stop them. The silence that follows is deafening. I can feel heat creeping up my neck as I realize I've just acknowledged the elephant in the room that everyone's been politely ignoring for 8 months. You worked well together because you complement each other, Evie says gently, unfazed by my outburst. Liam's big picture thinking and your attention to detail. His focus on operations and your understanding of the guest experience. That hasn't changed. I glance at Liam, trying to read his expression. His face is carefully neutral, but I can see the tension in his shoulders, the way his jaw is set just a little too tight. He's not any happier about this arrangement than I am, but he's too professional to object in front of his family. If Lauren's comfortable with the arrangement, he says finally, his voice carefully measured, then I'm fine with it. All eyes turn to me. I could object, could find some perfectly reasonable excuse about being too busy with the quarterly reports or not having enough event planning experience. I could protect myself from the inevitable awkwardness and tension that comes with spending extended time in Liam's company. But looking around the table at these people who've become my family again, who've welcomed me back despite everything I put them through, I realize I can't. They're asking me to help celebrate the legacy of this place that means everything to them, and despite my personal complications, I want to be part of that. Of course, I hear myself saying, I'd be honored to help. I'm 5 minutes early to Liam's office, which gives me just enough time to settle into a chair and try to calm my nerves. We've had plenty of brief meetings over the past few months, but this is different. This requires actual collaboration, not just quick professional exchanges with easy escape routes. When Liam walks in at exactly 9 o'clock, he pauses slightly at seeing me already settled with my tablet. Coffee? He asks, gesturing toward the small machine in the corner. I'm good, thanks. I hold up my travel mug. Already caffeinated and ready to plan. He nods and pours himself a cup, settling into his chair with the same organized efficiency he brings to everything. For a moment we just sit there, two people who used to share everything now reduced to polite small talk over coffee. So, he says finally, opening a notebook and uncapping a pen. Founders Weekend. Legacy and renewal. Right. I pull out my tablet, grateful to have something concrete to focus on. Evie mentioned a weekend-long celebration. I was thinking we should start with capacity. How many guests can we realistically accommodate? The dining room holds 80 for dinner service, he says, making notes. But if we use the main lodge common area as well, we could probably handle 120 for cocktails. More if we set up something outside, weather permitting. And lodging? I'm sliding back into work mode, the familiar rhythm of logistics and planning providing safe ground. All 12 cabins, plus the 4 guest rooms in the main lodge. 32 guests maximum for overnight stays, but most of our Founders Weekend attendees are local or regional. They'll drive in for the day. I make notes on my tablet, calculating numbers and possibilities. So we're looking at maybe 60 to 80 people for the full weekend experience, with day guests bringing the total up to 120. That sounds about right. He's watching me work, and when I glance up, I catch something in his expression that reminds me of the old days. The way he used to look at me when we were planning events together, like he appreciated seeing my mind work through problems. Guest list, I say, clearing my throat and looking back at my tablet. Long-term guests, local dignitaries, family friends? Plus the extended Callahan family. Aunts, uncles, cousins who don't work at the lodge but still consider this place home. Right. I'm typing notes, trying to ignore the way his voice softens when he talks about family. And the theme is legacy and renewal. What does that look like practically? Displays of old photos, maybe some kind of retrospective presentation? Ivy suggested incorporating stories, he says, leaning back in his chair. Having longtime guests share memories of their first visit, how the lodge has been part of their family traditions. I love that. The enthusiasm in my voice surprises me, but the idea really is perfect. We could set up a memory station where people can record stories or write them down. Make it interactive. I like it. For the first time since I've been back, he's looking at me without the careful guard he usually keeps in place. And for the renewal part, we could do something about the lodge's future. The improvements we're making, the next generation taking over operations. New beginnings, I say, then immediately wish I hadn't. The words hang between us, loaded with irony neither of us can ignore. Right, he says quietly, his pen stilling on the paper. New beginnings. The silence stretches just long enough to become uncomfortable before I clear my throat and refocus on my tablet. Food and beverage. Declan mentioned wanting to incorporate traditional recipes with modern updates. He's been researching dishes that have been served here for decades, Liam says, following my lead back to safer territory. Apparently there's a pot roast recipe from the 50s that guests still ask about. That's perfect for the legacy theme. I'm making more notes, but I can feel him watching me again. When I look up, he doesn't look away immediately like he usually does. What? I ask. Nothing, he stops, shakes his head. You always did this. Did what? Got excited about the details. The way you just lit up talking about the memory station. His voice is softer now, almost wondering. You always saw the heart of what we were trying to create, not just the logistics. The compliment catches me off guard, and I feel heat creeping up my neck. I just think it's important to make events meaningful for people. Not just pretty or well organized, but memorable. It is important, he agrees. That's what he stops himself, looks down at his notes. That's a good insight. I wonder what he was going to say. Anyway, he continues, clearly retreating from wherever that conversation was heading. For the renewal aspect, I thought we could incorporate some of the recent improvements. The gazebo restoration, the new cabin renovations, maybe even highlight some of the couples who've gotten married here recently. Like your brothers, I say. And Max and Sabrina, Nolan and Catherine. Right. There's a pause. Love stories that worked out. The words hit harder than they should, carrying the weight of everything unspoken between us. I stare at my tablet screen, pretending to be absorbed in my notes while I wait for the sting to fade. Lauren. His voice is gentle, and when I look up, there's something almost apologetic in his expression. I didn't mean. It's fine, I say quickly. You're right. Those are the stories worth celebrating. But it's not fine, and we both know it. Because sitting here, planning an event about legacy and renewal, about honoring the past while building something new, feels like the cruelest kind of irony. We're supposed to be celebrating new beginnings while carefully avoiding any acknowledgement of the beginning we threw away. Maybe we should focus on the timeline, I suggest, needing to steer us back to neutral ground. Friday night cocktails, Saturday activities and dinner, Sunday brunch. Yes. He flips to a new page in his notebook, clearly as eager as I am to move away from dangerous territory. Friday evening, 6 to 9. Cocktails in the main lodge, maybe some light appetizers. Saturday morning activities, I continue. Nature walks, maybe some of the traditional lodge games? Photography workshop, he adds. Connor mentioned he and Sarah wanting to offer something that plays into the memory theme. Teaching people to capture the moment. That's lovely. And it is. Sarah has always had an eye for finding beauty in unexpected places. Saturday evening is the main event. Dinner, presentations, maybe dancing? Dancing. He says the word like it might bite him, and I understand why. We danced at our wedding in the gazebo. Danced in the rain while our guests ran for cover, laughing and spinning like we had all the time in the world. Or not dancing, I say softly. Just dinner and presentations might be enough. No, dancing makes sense. His jaw is set with determination. It's a celebration. People expect dancing at celebrations. Okay. I make a note, though my chest feels tight. And Sunday brunch is the farewell? Farewell and looking forward, he corrects. Evie wants to end on a hopeful note. People leaving with a sense of connection to this place and excitement about what comes next. What comes next? Another loaded phrase in a conversation full of them. We spend the next hour working through details. Menu planning, decoration ideas, logistics for guest flow and timing. Gradually, the awkwardness fades into something that feels almost familiar. The way we used to work together when we were married, bouncing ideas off each other, building on each other's suggestions. He listens when I talk about creating intimate spaces within the larger event. I find myself nodding when he explains his vision for honoring the lodge's history while showcasing its evolution. For brief moments, it feels like we're a team again. But then one of us will say something that brushes too close to personal territory, and the walls go back up. The careful distance returns. The reminder that we're colleagues now, nothing more. I think that covers the basics, he says finally, closing his notebook. We can refine details as we get closer. Sounds good. I save my notes and slip my tablet back into my bag. I'll work on vendor contacts for flowers and additional catering support. And I'll coordinate with Ivy on the logistics timeline. We're both standing now, the meeting clearly over. But neither of us moves toward the door. For a moment, we just look at each other across the space that used to feel comfortable and now feels charged with everything we're not saying. This is good, he says finally. The event. It's going to be good. Yes, I agree. Evie will be pleased. She will. Another pause. Another moment where it feels like one of us might say something real, something beyond the careful professionalism we've been maintaining. Instead, he steps back, putting more distance between us. Same time next week, he asks. To review progress? Of course. I head for the door, then pause with my hand on the handle. Liam? Yeah? Thank you. For agreeing to work with me on this. I know it's not easy. Thank you for saying yes, he says quietly. Mom was right. You're the best person for this job.
Chapter 6. Liam. The storage room beneath the main lodge hasn't been properly organized in years, which explains why I'm currently surrounded by boxes labeled in Mom's careful handwriting dating back decades. I'm supposed to be looking for decorations that might work for Founders Weekend, something with vintage appeal that captures the lodge's history. What I wasn't expecting to find was a box labeled Landell Wedding, miscellaneous, tucked behind a stack of Christmas garland like someone tried to hide it but couldn't quite bring themselves to throw it away. My chest tightens at the sight of my own handwriting on the label. Landell. Liam and Lauren. I remember writing that in the frantic weeks before our wedding, when every detail felt urgent and important and worth preserving. I should put the box back where I found it and continue looking for what I actually came here for. Instead, I find myself pulling the box toward me and lifting the lid. The first thing I see is a string of paper lanterns, cream-colored with delicate gold trim, still carefully wrapped in tissue paper. The sight of them stops me cold because I remember these lanterns with painful clarity. Lauren had found them at a craft fair in Asheville during one of our weekend trips, back when we still took weekend trips, back when we had time for things like wandering through craft fairs and dreaming about our future. Look at these, she'd said, holding up the sample lantern with the kind of excitement most people reserve for major life events. Aren't they perfect? They'll look amazing strung around the gazebo, and we can use them for other events after the wedding. Always thinking ahead, always seeing potential. That was Lauren. The woman who could look at simple paper lanterns and envision years of celebrations, dozens of reasons to bring them out and string them up and fill a space with warm, golden light. I'd bought them for her without hesitation, charmed by her enthusiasm and the way she was already planning events we hadn't even dreamed up yet. The lanterns became part of our wedding decorations, hung around the gazebo and the main lodge entrance, creating the kind of magical atmosphere that made guests take extra photos and linger longer at the reception. They were beautiful. Everything about our wedding was beautiful. I lift the string of lanterns from the box, remembering how carefully Lauren had supervised their placement, climbing up on ladders in her jeans and lodge t-shirt the day before the ceremony, making sure each one was positioned just right. She'd been so happy that week, so full of plans and excitement about becoming Mrs. Callahan, about officially joining the family business, about the life we were going to build together. Beneath the lanterns are other remnants of our wedding day. The guest book with its leather cover and cream-colored pages. A bundle of programs tied with the same gold ribbon that had been woven through Lauren's bouquet. Place cards in Lauren's careful handwriting, seating arrangements for guests who celebrated with us before everything fell apart. At the very bottom of the box is something that makes my throat close up entirely. It's a small framed photo of Lauren and me from our engagement party, laughing at something Declan had said while we stood on the lodge's front porch. We look impossibly young in the photo, impossibly happy. Like two people who believed that love was enough to carry them through anything life might throw their way. We were so naive. The photo was taken long before my father's heart attack. Before everything changed, before the weight of responsibility crashed down on my shoulders and turned me into someone Lauren barely recognized. Before grief and guilt and the desperate need to hold everything together drove a wedge between us that neither of us knew how to bridge. I stare at the photo, remembering the man I used to be. The one who took spontaneous weekend trips and laughed easily and believed that our biggest challenge would be deciding whether to expand the lodge's trail system or renovate the guest cabins first. The one who was planning to take Lauren to Italy for our first anniversary, who had already started researching vineyards and restaurants and little hotels in Tuscany where we could pretend to be normal tourists instead of lodge owners with endless responsibilities. The one who never made it to that first anniversary because his wife was gone by then, living a life that didn't include him. Find anything useful? Mom's voice from the doorway makes me jump, and I realize I've been sitting here for who knows how long, holding a photograph of my former life like it might contain answers to questions I'm afraid to ask. Sorry, I say, starting to put the photo back in the box. I was looking for decorations for Founders Weekend and got distracted by your wedding memorabilia, she observes, moving into the storage room and settling onto a nearby box with the grace of someone who's had plenty of practice making herself comfortable in unexpected places. I didn't know this was still here. I couldn't throw it away, she admits. It felt too final, too much like giving up on something that might still matter someday. I look at her sharply, but her expression is neutral, revealing nothing about whatever matchmaking schemes might be running through her mind. It was a long time ago, Mom. Was it? She tilts her head, studying me with those sharp blue eyes. Because from where I'm sitting, it looks like it was yesterday and you're still living in it. The words sting because they're true. 3 years, and I can still remember exactly how Lauren looked in her wedding dress, can still hear her laugh from that engagement party photo, can still feel the weight of her hand in mine when we danced in the gazebo while our guests ran for cover from the unexpected rain. Things change, I say finally. People change. Do they? She reaches for the string of lanterns, running her fingers over the delicate paper. Because these are the same lanterns Lauren spent 20 minutes describing to me last week when we were discussing decoration ideas for Founders Weekend. She remembered every detail. Where you bought them, how excited she was to find them, how perfect they looked that night. My heart does something complicated in my chest. She remembered? She remembers everything, sweetheart. The question is, what are you going to do about it? I stare at the lanterns in her hands, imagining Lauren describing them with the same enthusiasm she'd shown at that craft fair all those years ago. Imagining her voice softening as she recalled details I thought had been lost along with everything else we used to share. I don't know, I admit. Well, Mom says, standing and brushing dust off her jeans, maybe it's time to figure it out. And maybe, she adds, nodding toward the box of wedding memories, these decorations are exactly what Founders Weekend needs. Sometimes the best way forward is to stop running from the past. She heads toward the door, then pauses to look back at me. Bring the lanterns upstairs when you're ready, she says. I have a feeling they're going to be perfect for celebrating new beginnings. The letter sits on my kitchen table like an accusation. I've been staring at it for 20 minutes, ever since I got home and pulled it from my pocket where it's been burning a hole for the past 2 days. The cream-colored envelope with Lauren's careful handwriting, for my husband. I was her husband once. For 4 months and 16 days. My coffee has gone cold, but I don't move to reheat it. Don't move at all. Just sit here in the quiet of my cabin, holding the weight of words I'm terrified to read. The envelope flap lifts easily. 3 years have loosened the adhesive, made the decision for me. Inside is a single sheet of paper, folded once, covered in Lauren's handwriting. The ink is slightly smudged in places, like tears fell on it while she was writing. I unfold it with hands that aren't quite steady. Liam. I don't know how to tell you this, so I'm just going to write it down and hope you understand. I lost the baby today. The words hit me like a physical blow. I have to read them 3 times before they sink in, before my brain can process what she's telling me. Baby. There was a baby. I know I should have told you I was pregnant, but you've had so much on your shoulders since your dad died, and I thought I had time. I thought I could wait until things settled down, until you weren't drowning in everything else. I was going to tell you this weekend, after we got through the insurance meeting and the staff scheduling crisis. But there's nothing to tell you now. My vision blurs. I set the letter down and press the heels of my hands against my eyes, trying to process this revelation that changes everything I thought I knew about our marriage, about why she left. She was pregnant and lost the baby. She went through it alone. I pick up the letter again, my hands shaking. The doctor said it happens sometimes in the first trimester. That it's nobody's fault, that there was nothing I could have done differently. But it doesn't feel like nobody's fault. It feels like mine. I keep thinking about that night 2 weeks ago when you came home late from dealing with the electrical problem in cabin 6. I was asleep on the couch waiting for you, and when you woke me up, I was cranky about being disturbed. I should have told you then. Should have said, guess what? We're going to have a baby. Should have seen your face light up the way I'd been imagining for weeks. Instead, I complained about being tired and went to bed angry. I've been carrying this secret for 6 weeks, Liam. 6 weeks of morning sickness I blamed on stress, of planning how to tell you, of imagining what kind of father you'd be. Amazing, by the way. You would have been amazing. The parenthetical breaks me. I have to stop reading, have to stand up and pace to the window, gulping air like I'm drowning. A baby. We were going to have a baby, and I never knew. I know you're going to blame yourself when you read this, but please don't. This isn't about the stress or the long hours or anything you did or didn't do. Sometimes things just happen, and we have to find a way to live with them. But I don't know how to live with this, Liam. I don't know how to sit across from you at breakfast and pretend everything is normal when I feel like I'm bleeding from the inside out. I don't know how to watch you carry everyone else's problems when I can't even figure out how to carry my own. I need you. I need my husband. I need the man who used to find me in the kitchen when I couldn't sleep and make me tea without asking why I was up. I need the person who knew when I was sad before I did, who could make me laugh even when everything felt impossible. But that person disappeared when your dad died, and I understand why. I understand that the lodge needs you, that your family needs you, that holding everything together is more important than holding me. I just wish it wasn't. I love you. I will always love you. But I can't keep competing with grief and responsibility for the attention of my own husband. I can't keep being invisible in my own marriage. I'm going to stay with my sister for a while. I don't know for how long. I don't know what comes next. I just know I can't keep pretending that I'm okay when I'm not, that we're okay when we're not. Maybe some space will help us both figure out what we actually want from this marriage. Maybe it will help you see me again. If you want to see me again. All my love, Lauren. P.S. I left this letter for you because I was too much of a coward to say it to your face. I hope you can forgive me for that too. The letter slips from my numb fingers and drifts to the floor. She was pregnant. She lost our baby. Alone. And I never knew. Never saw her grief because I was so buried in my own. Never noticed that the woman I married was disappearing right in front of me, drowning in loss and loneliness while I convinced myself I was protecting her by handling everything myself. I sink back into my chair, staring at the letter on the floor. 3 years. 3 years I've been telling myself she left because I wasn't enough, because she wanted something I couldn't give her. 3 years of believing she chose someone else over me, that our marriage meant less to her than it did to me. But she didn't leave me for someone else. She left because I left first. Because I became so consumed with being the perfect son, the perfect lodge manager, the perfect provider that I forgot how to be her husband. She needed me, and I wasn't there. Our baby died, and I wasn't there. The grief hits me like a delayed avalanche, 3 years of suppressed pain crashing down all at once. I put my head in my hands and finally let myself cry. For the baby I never knew existed, for the wife who suffered alone, for the marriage I destroyed through good intentions and terrible choices. For the man I used to be, who would have dropped everything to hold her when she was hurting. The man she fell in love with, who disappeared when she needed him most. I don't know how long I sit there. Long enough for the shadows to shift across the kitchen floor, for the evening light to fade to dusk. When I finally pick up the letter again, my tears have dried, but the ache in my chest remains. She left it for me. 3 years ago, she left this letter and I never saw it. Never knew she was reaching out, trying to bridge the gap between us with words she was too afraid to say out loud. How many other things did I miss? How many signs did I ignore while I was so focused on holding everything else together? I fold the letter carefully and slip it back into the envelope. Then I sit in my darkening kitchen and finally understand the magnitude of what I lost when Lauren walked away. Chapter 7. Liam. I can't stay in the cabin. Can't sit still with the weight of what I've learned pressing down on my chest like a stone. So I walk. The lodge property at night is familiar territory. Paths I've walked 1,000 times, checking locks and turning off lights and making sure everything is secure before heading home. But tonight the familiar feels foreign, like I'm seeing everything through different eyes. Every step takes me deeper into the past, replaying moments from our marriage that I thought I understood. Lauren's increasing quietness at dinner. The way she started going to bed early, claiming exhaustion. How she'd look at me sometimes with an expression I couldn't read, like she was waiting for something I wasn't giving her. I thought she was adjusting to being married, to living at the lodge, to sharing space with my grief over Dad's death. I thought she needed time. I never considered that she might be grieving too. That she might need me. The letter is still in my hand, and I realize I've been carrying it with me like evidence of my own blindness. Every word is burned into my memory now, but I can't seem to let go of the physical proof of how badly I failed her. My feet carry me up the hill toward the gazebo without conscious thought. It's been our destination before, in happier times when we'd sit on the bench and watch the stars and plan our future. Tonight it feels like the only place that might hold answers, or at least somewhere to sit with the enormity of what I've learned. But as I approach the scaffolding and plastic sheeting, I realize I'm not alone. Lauren is sitting on the bench inside the almost restored structure, her silhouette visible through the plastic. She's perfectly still, like she's been there for hours, just watching the mountains disappear into darkness. I stop at the edge of the construction zone, suddenly unsure. Part of me wants to turn around, to go home and pretend this moment isn't happening. To give myself more time to process what I've learned before I have to face her with this new knowledge. But she's already noticed me. Already turning toward the sound of my footsteps on the stone path. Liam? Her voice carries the same careful neutrality she's used with me for months, but there's an undercurrent of something else to it. I step closer, into the circle of light from the lodge's exterior fixtures, and I see the exact moment she notices the letter in my hand. Her entire body goes rigid, and the color drains from her face. "You read it," she says quietly. It's not a question. I look down at the envelope, then back at her. "You dropped it. The other day, when you were helping that boy with his scraped knee. I've been looking for it everywhere." Her voice is barely above a whisper. "I thought I'd lost it." "You wrote this 3 years ago." "Yes. And I never saw it." She nods once, her eyes never leaving my face. "I left it on your desk the night before I went to stay with my sister. Right there next to your coffee mug in your daily schedules, where you couldn't possibly miss it." The words hit like a physical blow. "But I did miss it." "I know." Her voice cracks slightly. "When you never called, never came after me, I thought you'd read it and decided I wasn't worth fighting for." I close my eyes, the full magnitude of our misunderstanding finally becoming clear. She thought I'd chosen not to fight for her. I thought she'd chosen to leave me. We were both wrong. When I open my eyes, she's watching me with an expression I recognize now. The same look she used to give me in those final weeks of our marriage. Like she's waiting for something from me, hoping for something she's afraid she won't get. "Lauren," I start, but my voice breaks on her name. She stands up slowly, carefully, like she's afraid any sudden movement might shatter whatever fragile moment we're balanced on. "We need to talk," she says. Yes, I agree, though I have no idea what words could possibly be adequate for what we need to say to each other. We do.
Chapter 8. Lauren. The words come easier than I expected, maybe because I've been carrying them for so long that they're ready to spill out. Or maybe because sitting here in our gazebo, with the letter that holds my deepest pain in his hands, pretending feels impossible. "I found out I was pregnant 6 weeks before your dad died," I begin, my voice steady despite the way my heart is racing. "I was going to tell you that weekend. I had it all planned out. Dinner at that little place in Asheville you loved, maybe a walk afterward. I wanted it to be special." Liam is perfectly still on the bench across from me, the letter held loosely in his hands. In the dim light filtering through the plastic sheeting, I can see the devastation on his face, but he doesn't speak. He listens. But then the call came about your dad, and everything changed. "You were drowning, Liam. Drowning in grief and responsibility and the weight of keeping everyone else afloat. How could I add to that? How could I tell you about the baby when you could barely handle everything else?" I wrap my arms around myself, remembering those terrible days after the funeral. So I waited. I thought I had time. I thought once things settled down, once you weren't carrying the world on your shoulders, I'd find the right moment. The silence stretches between us, heavy with everything I've never said. But I was wrong about having time. I lost the baby weeks after your dad died. I was alone in our bedroom when it happened. You were at the lodge dealing with some crisis with the insurance company. I drove myself to the hospital and sat in that waiting room by myself while the doctor confirmed what I already knew. My voice breaks slightly, and I have to pause to collect myself. Even after 3 years, the memory of that day still has the power to hollow me out. When I came home, you were on the phone with the contractor about repairing the roof damage from that storm. You barely looked up when I walked in. Just held up one finger to indicate you'd be with me in a minute, then talked for another hour about materials and timelines and budget constraints. I can see him flinch at that, can see the moment he remembers. But I can't stop now, can't leave anything unsaid. I sat on our couch and listened to you solve everyone else's problems while I bled and grieved alone. And I realized that's what I'd become to you. Another problem to be managed, another responsibility to handle when you had time. "That's not," he starts, but I shake my head. "It is, though. Or it felt like it. You were so busy being the perfect son, the perfect lodge manager, the perfect protector of everyone else that there wasn't room for me to be anything but perfect too. So I pretended I was fine. Pretended losing our baby didn't matter because I thought that's what you needed from me." The tears come now, 3 years worth of suppressed grief spilling over. But it did matter, Liam. It mattered so much, and I had no one to tell because the one person who should have been grieving with me was too busy holding everyone else together. He's leaning forward now, his elbows on his knees, staring at the ground between us. I can see his hands shaking slightly where they grip the letter. "I wrote you that letter because I couldn't find the words to say it out loud. Because every time I tried to talk to you about anything real, anything that mattered, you'd get called away to deal with some lodge emergency or family crisis. I felt invisible in my own marriage. Lauren." My name comes out like a broken prayer, rough and barely audible. When you never responded to the letter, never called, never came after me, I thought you'd read it and decided our marriage wasn't worth saving. I thought you were relieved to have one less responsibility to worry about. I wiped my eyes with the back of my hand, tasting salt and regret. Peter called a few weeks later. He offered me a job in Denver, a fresh start, a chance to pretend none of this had ever happened. So I said yes. You married him. The words are flat, emotionless, but I can hear the pain underneath. I married him because I was broken and he was safe and I thought I deserved exactly as little as he was willing to give me. The admission tastes bitter. It lasted 8 months. 8 months of pretending to be someone I wasn't, of trying to convince myself that settling for less was better than fighting for more. Liam looks up at me then, and the devastation in his eyes almost breaks my resolve. I made a terrible mistake, I continue. Not just marrying Peter, but giving up on us. Giving up on you. Running away instead of fighting for what we had. What we had was already broken, he says quietly. No. My voice is firmer now, more certain. What we had was buried under grief and fear and the weight of responsibility. But it wasn't broken. Not then. I broke it when I left. The silence stretches again, but this one feels different. Heavier. Like we're both sitting with the full weight of what we've lost, what we threw away through misunderstanding and pain and youth. I'm sorry, I whisper. I'm so sorry, Liam. For leaving. For not fighting harder. For marrying someone else when the only man I've ever loved was sitting wondering why his wife disappeared. He's crying now, silently, tears tracking down his face in the dim light. But he doesn't speak. Doesn't reach for me. Doesn't offer the forgiveness I'm desperate for but know I don't deserve. The pain radiating from him is almost unbearable. I can see him trying to process everything I've told him, trying to reconcile the story he's believed for 3 years with the truth I've just laid bare. It's too much, too big, too raw for words. I should go, I say finally, standing on unsteady legs. Give you time to. Don't. The word stops me cold. Don't leave again. Liam. Please. He looks up at me, and the brokenness in his expression mirrors everything I feel. I can't. I need time to think. To understand. But don't leave. I nod, though I'm not sure what that means. Don't leave the gazebo? Don't leave the lodge? Don't leave Elk Ridge again? I'll be here, I promise, because it's the only thing I can offer him right now. However long you need, I'll be here.
Chapter 9. Liam. The axe comes down with more force than necessary, splitting the log clean through and embedding itself in the chopping block beneath. I've been at this for an hour, working through the pile of firewood that's been sitting behind my cabin since last winter, and my shoulders are screaming in protest. But I can't stop. Can't be still. Can't sit with the chaos in my head without something to do with my hands. Every swing of the axe is punctuated by another piece of Lauren's confession. The baby we lost that I never knew existed. The grief she carried alone while I convinced myself I was protecting her. The letter I never saw, the fight I never fought, the marriage I let slip away through sheer obliviousness. Thunk! She drove herself to the hospital. Thunk! She sat in that waiting room alone. Thunk! She came home to me on the phone, solving everyone else's problems while she bled and grieved in silence. The next log splits with a crack like a gunshot, and I realize I'm breathing hard, sweat soaking through my t-shirt despite the cool morning air. But I can't stop. Because stopping means thinking, and thinking means facing the magnitude of how badly I failed her. Failed them. Her and the baby I never got to know about, never got to mourn. Seriously, Liam. What did that firewood ever do to you? I spin around to find Declan standing at the edge of my yard, 2 cups of coffee in his hands and an expression of concern on his face. He's clearly been there for a while, watching me attack the wood pile like it personally wronged me. Just catching up on chores, I say, wiping sweat from my forehead with the back of my hand. Right. He sets one of the coffee cups on my porch railing and takes a sip from the other. Because nothing says casual Saturday morning chores like splitting wood with the intensity of a man trying to exorcise demons. I set the axe aside and reach for the coffee, grateful for the distraction. What brings you by? Jules sent me to check on you. Apparently, you missed dinner last night and didn't answer your phone when she called. He studies my face with the perceptive look that's always made him impossible to lie to. She was worried. We all were. Dinner. Right. I vaguely remember Jules texting about family dinner at their place, but by then I was already deep into my second bottle of beer and staring at Lauren's letter like it might rearrange itself into something less devastating. Sorry. I was dealing with something. Something that required you to split enough firewood to last through next winter? Declan gestures at the impressive pile of split logs I've created. Come on, man. Talk to me. I take a long sip of coffee, buying time. Declan is the most emotionally intelligent of all my brothers, the one who somehow manages to see through everyone's carefully constructed walls. If anyone can help me make sense of the chaos in my head, it's him. But where do I even start? Lauren was pregnant, I say finally, the words coming out flat and emotionless. 3 years ago. She lost the baby while I was dealing with insurance paperwork. Declan's coffee cup stops halfway to his mouth. What? She wrote me a letter about it. Left it on my desk the night before she went to stay with her sister. I never saw it. I laugh, but there's no humor in it. For 3 years, she thought I'd read it and decided not to fight for her. For 3 years, I thought she'd chosen someone else over me. Liam. Declan sets down his coffee and moves closer. I'm so sorry. I had no idea. Neither did I. I stare into my coffee cup, seeing my own reflection in the dark surface. She went through it alone, December. The miscarriage, the grief, all of it. While I was running around playing hero manager, fixing everyone else's problems. You were grieving too, Declan says quietly. Dad had just died. You were trying to hold the family together, keep the lodge running. I was hiding, I interrupt. Hiding behind work and responsibility because it was easier than dealing with my own pain. And while I was hiding, my wife was falling apart and I was too blind to see it. Declan is quiet for a long moment, processing what I've told him. When he speaks again, his voice is careful, measured. What are you going to do about it? I don't know. The admission feels like failure. I don't know how to forgive something like this. How to move past it. Forgive her or forgive yourself? The question hits like a slap. What's that supposed to mean? It means you're standing here splitting with like you're trying to punish yourself for something that happened 3 years ago. Something you didn't even know about until yesterday. Declan crosses his arms, settling into the stance he gets when he's about to deliver uncomfortable truths. Lauren made mistakes. Big ones. But so did you, and the difference is she's trying to make amends while you're out here trying to turn logs into sawdust. She left me, December. She married someone else. She was 25 years old and drowning in grief you didn't even know she was carrying. His voice is gentle but firm. She made a terrible decision from a terrible place. But she's not 25 anymore, and neither are you. I want to argue with him, want to hold on to the anger because it's easier than facing the alternative. But the anger feels hollow now, undermined by the knowledge of what Lauren was really going through when she left. I don't know how to get past this, I admit. You don't forgive someone because it's easy, Declan says quietly. You forgive them because you still love them. The words hang in the air between us, simple and devastating in their truth. Do you, he asks, still love her? I close my eyes, and immediately I'm back in the gazebo last night, watching Lauren's face crumple as she told me about losing our baby. Seeing the weight she's been carrying, the guilt that's been eating at her for 3 years. Understanding, finally, that the woman who left me wasn't the selfish person I'd convinced myself she was, but someone so broken she couldn't see any other way out. Yes, I whisper. Then maybe the question isn't whether you can forgive her, Declan says. Maybe it's whether you're brave enough to try again. I open my eyes and look at my brother, seeing the same compassion in his face that helped him build a relationship with Jules despite their complicated history. The same willingness to take risks for love that's made him happy in a way I haven't been since Lauren left. What if we just break each other again? What if you don't, he counters. What if you're both different people now? Older, wiser, more aware of what you're risking? I don't have an answer for that. Don't know how to balance the fear of getting hurt again against the possibility that Lauren and I might be able to build something new from the ashes of what we destroyed. Think about it, Declan says, picking up his coffee cup. But don't think too long. Some chances don't come around twice, and from what I can see, you two have already wasted enough time. He heads toward his truck, then pauses and looks back at me. For what it's worth, he says, I've watched Lauren these past few months. She's not the same person who left 3 years ago. Neither are you. Maybe that's exactly what you both need. Founders Weekend arrives with perfect October weather. Crisp air, brilliant sunshine, and the kind of mountain views that make guests pull out their phones every 5 minutes to capture another shot. The lodge is buzzing with activity as staff and family members put finishing touches on decorations and prepare for the evening's main event. I've been avoiding Lauren all day, which is both easier and harder than expected. Easier because we're both busy coordinating different aspects of the celebration. Harder because I'm all too aware of her presence, catching glimpses of her conferring with Ivy about seating arrangements or helping Mom arrange the memory station we'd planned. The paper lanterns we found in the storage room are strung around the gazebo and main lodge entrance, just like our wedding day. Every time I see them, I think about Lauren's excitement when she first discovered them, about dreams we used to share that feel both impossibly distant and painfully near. The photographer wants to get some shots of the family before guests arrive, Ivy says, appearing at my elbow with her ever-present clipboard. Can you round up everyone? We're gathering by the gazebo in 10 minutes. I nod, grateful for a task that doesn't require me to think about anything beyond the immediate logistics. But as I head toward the main lodge to collect my brothers, I catch sight of Lauren standing near the memory station, straightening photo displays and adjusting the guest book we positioned for people to share their stories. She's wearing a deep blue dress that brings out her eyes, and she's pinned her hair back in a way that leaves her neck exposed. She looks beautiful and professional and completely absorbed in making sure everything is perfect for tonight's celebration. For a moment, I let myself imagine walking over to her, telling her she looks lovely, maybe even helping her adjust one of the photo displays like we used to do when we worked events together. But then she glances up and catches me watching, and the careful smile she offers reminds me of everything that's still broken between us. The evening passes in a blur of cocktails and conversations, guests sharing memories of their first visits to the lodge and toasting to its continued success. Edie's speech about legacy and renewal brings tears to several eyes, and when Connor presents his slideshow of lodge history, there's genuine applause for the photos spanning decades of celebrations and milestones. Lauren and I move around each other like choreographed dancers, coordinating timing and managing details without ever quite ending up in the same space at the same time. It's professional and efficient and absolutely exhausting. But then, just as Declan is preparing to serve dessert, the lights flicker. It's subtle at first. A brief dimming that could be dismissed as a power grid hiccup. But then it happens again, longer this time, and murmurs of concern ripple through the dining room. Probably just the wind, Jameson announces cheerfully, but I can see him glancing toward the windows where tree branches are swaying more dramatically than they were an hour ago. The lights flicker a third time, and this time they stay dim for several seconds before returning to full brightness. Guests laugh nervously, and I catch Ivy's eye across the room, seeing my own concern reflected in her expression. I'm heading toward the main electrical panel when the power cuts out entirely. The lodge plunges into darkness so complete it takes several seconds for emergency lighting to kick in, casting everything in an eerie amber glow. There are gasps and a few nervous laughs from the dining room, but mostly just the sound of people trying to navigate suddenly unfamiliar space. It's okay, everyone, Edie's voice carries clearly through the darkness, calm and reassuring. We have backup lighting and plenty of candles. This will just add to the rustic charm. I'm pulling out my phone to use as a flashlight when I feel a hand slip into mine. Lauren's fingers are cold and slightly trembling, but her grip is sure. She's standing close enough that I can smell her perfume, can feel the warmth radiating from her skin in the cool darkness. Sorry, she whispers, her breath warm against my ear. I hate the dark. I remember this about her. How she used to sleep with a nightlight during thunderstorms, how she'd reach for me in the middle of the night when power outages left our bedroom pitch black. It's such a small thing, such an intimate detail from our shared past, but it cuts through every wall I've built around my heart. Without thinking, I squeeze her hand. She doesn't pull away. For a long moment, we just stand there in the amber emergency lighting, connected by touch and memory and the weight of everything we've lost and found again. Around us, the evening continues. Staff members light candles and reassure guests. Declan announces that dessert will proceed by candlelight, turning the power outage into an adventure rather than a crisis. The celebration adapts and continues, but Lauren and I remain perfectly still in our small bubble of reconnection. Then the main power returns with a sudden flood of bright light, and reality crashes back. Lauren pulls her hand away quickly, stepping back and smoothing her dress like she needs something to do with her suddenly empty fingers. The moment breaks, and we're back to being careful strangers, two people who used to know everything about each other and now can barely meet each other's eyes. "I should check on the kitchen," she says, her voice returned to its professional tone. "Make sure Declan doesn't need help with the dessert service." "Right," I agree, though we both know Declan has everything under control. "And I should look at the electrical panel. Make sure we don't have any more interruptions." She nods and turns to go, but then pauses and looks back at me. "Thank you," she says quietly. In the dark. "Of course," I reply, because what else can I say? That holding her hand felt like coming home? That for 30 seconds in the darkness, I remembered what it was like to be her safe place? She disappears toward the kitchen, and I head for the electrical panel, but I can still feel the ghost of her touch on my skin. Can still hear the vulnerability in her voice when she whispered that she hated the dark. The power outage gets sorted, just a tree branch that knocked against a transformer, and the evening concludes successfully with toasts and laughter and promises from guests to return next year. But all I can think about is the way Lauren's hand felt in mine, and the terrible knowledge that 30 seconds of connection can undo months of careful distance. When the last guest has gone home and the family finishes cleaning up, I find myself standing alone in the dining room, surrounded by the remnants of our celebration of legacy and renewal. Maybe Declan was right. Maybe forgiveness isn't about what's easy, but about what's worth fighting for. Maybe some chances are worth taking, even when you're terrified of what you might lose. Or maybe I'm just desperate enough to read meaning into a moment of comfort in the dark, to find hope in a touch that probably meant nothing more than old habits and familiar fears.
Chapter 10. Lauren. I find Evie in her herb garden early Sunday morning, deadheading the last of the season's flowers and harvesting mint for her morning tea. The Founders' Weekend celebration was a complete success. The guests left yesterday with promises to return and glowing reviews about the evening's magical atmosphere. But I can barely summon any satisfaction for a job well done. All I can think about is the moment in the darkness when Liam's hand closed around mine, warm and familiar and achingly right. And then the immediate retreat when the lights came back, the careful distance that returned like a wall slamming down between us. "Good morning, sweetheart," Evie says without looking up from her mint plants. "You're up early for someone who worked until midnight getting everything cleaned up." "Couldn't sleep." I settle onto the stone bench beside her garden, wrapping my cardigan tighter against the morning chill. "The event was beautiful, Evie. Everything you wanted it to be." "It was, wasn't it?" She straightens, brushing dirt from her hands with a satisfied smile. 75 people, and every one of them left feeling connected to this place. That's what it's all about. Creating memories, building community. Legacy and renewal, I say, and immediately regret bringing up the theme that's been haunting me for weeks. Exactly. Evie studies my face with those perceptive blue eyes. "Though I suspect you didn't come out here at 7 in the morning to discuss event planning." I take a deep breath, steeling myself for what I need to say. "I wanted to let you know that I'll be finishing out my contract as planned. My last day will be Friday." Evie goes very still, her hands pausing in their gentle harvesting. "I see. The books are in order. It should be easy for you to pick things back up," I say. Evie only gave up the task to create a job and a purpose for me here in Elk Ridge. She should have no problem taking over. I'm sure it will be. Evie's voice is carefully neutral, but I can see the disappointment in her expression. May I ask what changed your mind about staying? I look out at the mountains, their peaks touched with the gold of early autumn. This view has been my constant companion for 8 months, a daily reminder of everything I lost and everything I've been hoping to reclaim. I can't keep waiting for something that's never going to happen, I say quietly. I can't keep hoping that Liam will forgive me when it's clear he can't. Or won't. Has he told you that? He doesn't need to. The words taste bitter. It's been 3 days since I told him everything. About the baby, about why I really left. 3 days of him looking through me like I'm a ghost haunting the place where his wife used to be. Evie sets down her gardening shears and moves to sit beside me on the bench. Liam processes things slowly. Always has, even as a little boy. He needs time to work through complicated emotions. I know. And I've given him time. 8 months of careful distance, of proving I can be professional and reliable and everything this place needs in an employee. I turn to face her, feeling tears prick at my eyes. But I can't spend the rest of my life being just an employee to a man I'm still in love with. Oh, sweetheart. Evie's voice is soft with understanding. I thought if I was patient enough, if I proved myself worthy enough, maybe he'd see that I'm not the same person who ran away 3 years ago. Maybe he'd forgive me and we could try again. I wiped my eyes with the back of my hand. But I was wrong. Some things can't be fixed, no matter how much you want them to be. Are you sure about that? Evie asks gently. Because from where I sit, it seems like you're giving up just when things might be starting to shift. I think about Friday night, about the way Liam squeezed my hand in the darkness, about the 30 seconds when it felt like we might still have a chance. But then I remember the immediate retreat, the wall that went back up the moment the lights returned. I can't keep living on maybes and moments that might mean nothing, I say. I deserve more than that. The words surprise me with their certainty. For 3 years, I've been convinced that I deserved exactly what I got. Loneliness, regret, the consequences of my own terrible choices. But sitting here in Evie's garden, saying goodbye to the place that's been my sanctuary, I realize something has shifted. I do deserve more, I repeat, stronger this time. I deserve someone who wants to be with me, who fights for me, who doesn't need 8 months and a detailed confession to decide whether I'm worth a second chance. Evie is quiet for a long moment, her eyes searching my face. You're right, she says finally. You do deserve that. The validation should feel good, but instead it just makes my chest ache with the finality of what I'm choosing. I love him, Evie. I will always love him. But I can't keep shrinking myself to fit into the small space he's willing to give me in his life. I can't keep hoping that someday he'll see me as more than just a reminder of everything that went wrong. And if you're wrong? Evie asks. If he's just scared and working up the courage to try again? Then he'll have to find that courage without me, I say, and mean it. I've spent 3 years punishing myself for my mistakes. I've spent 8 months proving I'm not the same person who made them. If that's not enough for him, then nothing will be. Evie nods slowly, and I can see her processing what I've said, weighing arguments she might make against the determination in my voice. When will you leave Elk Ridge? She asks. I have an apartment lined up in Asheville. I'll move there next weekend and spend some time figuring out what comes next. The plan sounds hollow when I say it out loud, but it's practical and safe and doesn't involve staying in a place where every corner holds memories of what I can't have. I'll miss you, Evie says simply. This family will miss you. I'll miss you too. The tears come freely now, for everything I'm losing and everything I'll never have. But I can't stay. Not like this. We sit in comfortable silence for a while, watching the sun climb higher over the mountains and listening to the birds welcoming the new day. Finally, Evie stands and brushes off her jeans. For what it's worth, she says, I think you're making the right choice. Not because I want you to leave, but because you're finally choosing yourself. That takes courage. It doesn't feel courageous. It feels like giving up. Sometimes giving up on the wrong thing is the most courageous thing you can do, Evie says. It means you believe you deserve the right thing, even if you don't know what that looks like yet. She heads toward the lodge, then pauses and looks back at me. Don't leave without saying goodbye, she says. To all of us. I nod, not trusting my voice, and watch her disappear into the lodge. Then I sit alone in her garden, surrounded by the herbs and flowers she's tended for decades, and let myself grieve for the second chance I'm never going to get. The trunk of my car closes with a soft thud that seems to echo in the quiet Sunday evening air. 3 boxes of belongings, 1 suitcase of clothes, and a small houseplant that somehow survived 8 months in my tiny apartment. Not much to show for the time I've spent trying to rebuild my life in Elk Ridge. I stand at the edge of the lodge parking lot and remember the last time I stood in this exact spot with my life boxed up and my future uncertain. 3 years ago, I was 25 and wearing my wedding ring and crying so hard I could barely see the road ahead of me. I'd thrown my hastily packed bags into this same car and driven away from the only home I'd ever really known, convinced that I was saving us both from a marriage that was already beyond repair. Tonight, I'm 28 and my ring finger is bare and my eyes are dry. I'm not running from pain this time. I'm walking toward possibility, toward a future I get to choose for myself. The lodge looks beautiful in the fading light, its windows glowing golden against the darkening mountains. I can see figures moving around inside. Family cleaning up from the weekend, settling into their Sunday evening routines or getting ready to leave. Liam is probably in his office, catching up on paperwork or planning the week ahead. He might not even know I'm leaving until Evie tells him tomorrow. I've said my goodbyes, but couldn't make myself face him. The man I've loved for years. And always will. 3 years ago, I left hoping he would chase me. Tonight, I'm leaving because I finally understand that real love doesn't require chasing. It requires choosing, every day, to show up for each other. And if someone can't choose you, then you have to choose yourself. I take one last look at the place where I learned what love could be, and what it couldn't survive. Where I made my biggest mistakes and learned my hardest lessons. Where I discovered that sometimes the most loving thing you can do is let go. My phone buzzes with a text, and for a wild moment my heart leaps, thinking it might be Liam. But it's just my landlord in Asheville, confirming tomorrow's move-in time. I get in my car and start the engine, but I don't leave immediately. Instead, I sit for a moment in the gathering dusk and make myself a promise. Wherever I go next, whatever I do next, I'll remember this moment. The moment I chose my own worth over waiting for someone else to see it. The moment I finally learned that loving someone doesn't mean accepting less than you deserve.
Chapter 11. Liam. I'm walking back from checking the evening lighting around the gazebo when I see her car in the parking lot. At first, I don't think much of it. Lauren often stays late on Sunday evenings, catching up on work or helping with the weekend cleanup. But something about the way her Honda sits in the far corner of the lot, away from the other vehicles, makes me pause. The trunk is closed, but there's a weight to how the car sits that suggests it's packed full. And Lauren is standing beside it, perfectly still, staring up at the lodge like she's memorizing it. My chest tightens with sudden understanding. She's leaving. I should have seen this coming. Should have known that 3 days of silence from me after her devastating confession would push her away. Should have realized that a woman brave enough to bare her soul wouldn't wait forever for a response. But knowing it and seeing it are 2 different things. Watching her prepare to drive away, again, hits me like a physical blow. She gets into her car, and panic claws at my throat. I start walking faster, then jogging, but I'm too far away. By the time I reach the parking lot, her engine will be running and she'll be pulling away down the mountain road, just like she did 3 years ago. Just like she did when I was too stupid and too stubborn and too buried in my own grief to fight for her. The memory hits me without warning. Our wedding day, 3.5 years ago. The ceremony had gone perfectly, the reception was in full swing, and we were dancing in the gazebo to music drifting from the main lodge. Then the sky opened up and rain started pouring down, sending our guests scrambling for cover. But Lauren laughed and spun in my arms, her white dress getting soaked, her hair coming loose from its careful styling. "Everyone's running," she said, grinning up at me. "Not us," I replied, pulling her closer. "We don't run when things get hard." "Promise?" she asked, and there was something in her eyes that made it more than a playful question. "Promise," I said, and kissed her in the rain while our guests watched from the covered porch, applauding our stubborn romance. We don't run when things get hard. But I did run. When Dad died and everything fell apart, I ran straight into work and responsibility and the safe distance of being needed by everyone except the person who needed me most. I ran from the intimacy and vulnerability of marriage and hid behind the easier role of provider and protector. And when she needed me, when she was grieving our lost baby and drowning in loneliness, I wasn't there. I was running. She's about to drive away because I've spent 3 days running again. Running from the truth she told me, from the pain we've both been carrying, from the terrifying possibility that we might still have something worth saving. Her car starts, the sound carrying across the evening air like a warning shot. I start running for real this time, my feet pounding against the asphalt as I race toward the parking lot. Because suddenly I know with perfect clarity that I can't let her drive away again. Can't let another 3 years pass wondering what might have been if I'd just been brave enough to stop running. I love her. I've always loved her. Even when I thought she'd chosen someone else over me, even when I convinced myself that our marriage was just a young mistake, even when I built walls around my heart to keep from admitting the truth. "Lauren!" I shout her name as I reach the parking lot, but her windows are up and I don't know if she can hear me over the engine. She's reaching for the gear shift when she sees me in her peripheral vision. Her head turns, and through the windshield I can see the shock on her face as she registers me running toward her car like a man possessed. She rolls down her window, confusion replacing shock. "Liam? What's wrong? Is someone hurt?" "Yes," I say, breathing hard from my sprint across the property. "Me. I'm hurt, and I'm about to be a lot more hurt if you drive away." She stares at me for a long moment, her hands still on the steering wheel. Around us, I'm dimly aware that we've attracted an audience. Guests heading to their cars after dinner have stopped to watch. Jameson and Bear have emerged from the lodge, probably drawn by my shouting. Even my mother is standing on the front porch, her arms crossed but her expression hopeful. "I can't do this again, Liam," Lauren says quietly. "I can't keep hoping." "I know," I interrupt. "I know, and I'm sorry. I'm sorry I made you wait. I'm sorry I didn't find the letter back then. And I'm sorry I made you think I don't want you here." She's crying now, tears sliding down her cheeks in the glow from the parking lot lights. "Then why didn't you say anything? It's been 3 days, and you haven't said a word to me." "Because I was scared," I admit, the words coming easier than I expected. "Because learning about the baby, about how alone you were, about how badly I failed you. It broke something in me that I didn't know how to fix." I move closer to her car door, close enough to see the pain in her eyes. "Because I convinced myself that you were better off without me. That you deserved someone who wouldn't disappear when things got hard." "That's not your choice to make," she says, her voice steady despite the tears. "Whether I'm better off without you. That's my choice." "You're right." I take a deep breath, aware that everyone can hear us but not caring anymore. "So I'm asking you to choose. Not to stay for the lodge, or for your job, or because my mother wants you here. I'm asking you to stay for me." She closes her eyes, and I can see her struggling with herself. "Lauren." I reach through the open window and touch her face gently, my thumb brushing away her tears. "I promised to dance with you in the rain. I'm sorry I forgot how." Her eyes snap open at the words from our wedding day, and I see the moment she remembers. The gazebo, the sudden downpour, the promise we made to each other when we were young and stupid and thought love was enough to survive anything. "We don't run when things get hard," she whispers. "We don't run," I confirm. "And I'm done running from this. From us. From the fact that I never stopped loving you, not for a single day in 3 years." She lets out a sob that's half laugh, half cry. "You love me?" "I love you," I say, loud enough for our growing audience to hear. I love your attention to detail and the way you hum when you're working. I love how you see potential in broken things and how you're brave enough to fight for what matters. I love that you came back here even though it was hard, even though I made it harder. Liam. My name is a prayer on her lips. I love you, and I want to try again. Not to go back to what we were, but to build something new. Something stronger. I lean closer, my voice dropping to something meant just for her. But only if you want that too. Only if you're willing to take the risk. She turns off her car engine, and the sudden silence feels like an answer in itself. She gets out of the car, and suddenly she's in my arms, solid and warm and real. I hold her tight, breathing in the scent of her hair, feeling the way she fits against me like she was made for this exact spot. I love you too, she whispers against my chest. I never stopped loving you. Around us, I hear scattered applause and a few quiet cheers from our audience. But all I can focus on is the woman in my arms, the wife I lost and found again, the future we're brave enough to rebuild. So you'll stay? I ask. She pulls back to look at me, her face shining with tears and hope and something that looks a lot like joy. I'll stay, she says. But I have one condition. Anything. Next time we have something important to discuss, we talk about it. No more running, no more silence, no more protecting each other from hard truths. Deal, I say, and seal it with a kiss that tastes like coming home.
Chapter 12. Lauren. The past 3 days have felt like stepping into a dream I'm afraid to trust. Liam and I have been talking for hours at a time. About the baby we lost, about the grief we carried separately, about the mistakes we both made and the people we've become since then. We've taken long walks around the property, sharing memories and making new ones. We've had dinner together twice, careful and tentative but undeniably real. Liam helped me move my boxes back into one of the guest rooms at the lodge. My apartment in town had already been rented to someone else, but Evie insisted I stay at the lodge while we figure out what comes next. The simple domesticity of unpacking together made my chest ache with hope. But we haven't talked about the future beyond taking things one day at a time. Haven't discussed what trying again actually means in practical terms. We're both being so careful, so mindful of the fragile trust we're rebuilding, that neither of us has dared to name what we're hoping for. Which is why I'm surprised when he asks me to meet him at the gazebo this evening. Just after sunset, he said, his voice carrying a nervous energy I haven't heard from him in years. There's something I want to show you. Now I'm walking up the familiar stone path as the sky turns pink and gold above the mountains, wondering what could have put that particular light in his eyes. The gazebo looks beautiful in the evening light, the new copper roof gleaming and the restored stonework clean and solid. But as I get closer, I realize something's different. Paper lanterns are strung around the perimeter, cream-colored with delicate gold trim. It takes me a moment to recognize them, and when I do, my hand flies to my mouth in shock. These are our wedding lanterns. The ones I found at that craft fair in Asheville, the ones I was so excited about. I thought they were lost forever. They glow softly in the gathering dusk, casting the same warm light I remember from that night 3.5 years ago when we danced in the rain. My breath catches as I step inside the gazebo and see the rest. Fresh mountain laurel arranged in simple glass vases. Twinkling fairy lights woven through the supports. Even the stone floor has been swept clean and scattered with rose petals. It looks exactly like our wedding reception, but somehow more beautiful. More intentional. Less like the dream of two young people who thought love was simple, and more like a promise made by two adults who understand what love actually costs. Do you like it? Liam's voice comes from behind me, and I turn to find him standing at the entrance to the gazebo. He's wearing dark jeans and the blue button-down that brings out his eyes, and he's holding something small in his hands that makes my heart skip. Liam, I whisper, because suddenly I understand what this is. What he's asking. What all of this means. I know we said we'd take things slow, he says, stepping into the gazebo with me. I know we agreed to figure things out day by day. But I realized something. He moves closer, and I can see his hands trembling slightly around whatever he's holding. I realized that I don't want to figure it out day by day. I want to figure it out together, as partners, for the rest of our lives. He takes a shaky breath. I want to marry you again, Lauren. Not because we have to, not because it's expected, but because we choose to. Because we know what we're choosing now. He drops to one knee, and my vision blurs with tears as he opens a small velvet box to reveal a ring that's both familiar and completely new. It's my original engagement ring, the simple solitaire he gave me when we were 22 and broke and thought the size of the diamond mattered, but it's been reset in a new band, something more intricate and beautiful and clearly chosen with care. This is the ring I gave you when we were kids, he says, his voice rough with emotion. But I had it reset because we're not kids anymore. We're not the same people who got married the first time, and I don't want us to be. Tears are streaming down my face now, but I can't look away from his eyes, from the love and certainty I see there. We were too young to know how hard love could be, he continues. Too young to know that it's not enough to love someone. You have to choose them every day, even when it's difficult. Especially when it's difficult. Liam, I start, but he shakes his head. Let me finish, he says with a small smile. I'm choosing you, Lauren Abbott. Not to start over, but to keep going. To build something new on the foundation of what we learned when everything fell apart. Will you choose me too? Will you marry me again? I drop to my knees in front of him, framing his face with my hands, wanting to be on the same level for this moment. Yes, I say through my tears. Yes, I'll marry you. I'll choose you. I never stopped choosing you, even when I was too scared to fight for us. He slides the ring onto my finger, and it fits perfectly. Not just the band, but the symbolism. Something old made new, something familiar transformed into something better. I was so young, I whisper, my forehead touching his. So young and so scared, and I thought you didn't need me anymore. I thought I wasn't enough. You were always enough, he says fiercely. I was just too blind to see you were drowning. Too caught up in my own grief to notice yours. We both made mistakes. We did. But we're not those people anymore. He stands and pulls me up with him, his arms coming around my waist. We're people who've learned how to communicate, how to ask for help, how to show up for each other even when it's hard. I look down at the ring on my finger, at the way it catches the light from the paper lanterns. When did you have this reset? Tuesday, he admits with a sheepish grin. The day after you told me about the baby. I knew then that I wanted to try again, but I was terrified you'd say no. That I'd waited too long to fight for us. I thought you were never going to forgive me. I thought I didn't deserve forgiveness. He cups my face in his hands, his thumbs wiping away my tears. But Declan reminded me that you don't forgive someone because it's easy. You forgive them because you still love them. I do love you, I say. So much it scared me for 3 years. No more being scared, he says. No more running. No more protecting each other from hard truths. No more protecting each other from hard truths, I agree. He kisses me then, soft and deep and full of promise. When we break apart, I'm laughing through my tears, giddy with joy and relief and the overwhelming rightness of this moment. So, I say, looking around at the beautifully decorated gazebo. When were you thinking? For the wedding? Whenever you want, he says. Spring, maybe? When the mountain laurel blooms? Spring sounds perfect. I lean into him, feeling the solid warmth of his chest under my cheek. But simple this time. Just family. Just us promising to keep choosing each other. Just us, he agrees, and I can hear the smile in his voice. We stand there in our gazebo as full darkness falls around us, the paper lanterns glowing like small suns and the mountains rising dark and protective around our little circle of light. Somewhere in the distance, I can hear the sounds of the lodge settling into evening. Guests returning to their cabins, staff finishing their shifts, the peaceful rhythm of a place where people come to find rest and renewal. And for the first time in 3 years, I'm not just visiting that peace. I'm living in it. We're living in it. Together. Thank you, I whisper against his chest. For what? For not giving up on us. For seeing that broken things can be beautiful again. Thank you, he says, pressing a kiss to the top of my head, for coming home. I lift my face to his, and we kiss again under the lanterns we hung for our first wedding, surrounded by the mountains that have been witness to both our breaking and our healing. This time, we're not promising that love will be easy. We're promising that it will be worth it.
Epilogue. Liam. Elk Ridge, 1 year later. The ultrasound room at the Elk Ridge Medical Center is small and quiet, filled with the soft hum of machines and the antiseptic smell that I've learned to associate with both hope and fear. Lauren lies on the examination table, her hand gripping mine with the same intensity she's shown for the past 12 weeks since we learned she was pregnant again. This time is different. This time, we're walking through every appointment together, sharing every fear and celebration. This time, when she needs to cry or worry or dream out loud about the future, I'm here to listen. Ready to see your baby? Dr. Martinez asks with a warm smile, settling into her chair beside the ultrasound machine. Lauren nods, but I feel the tremor in her hand. We've been preparing for this moment for weeks. Today is the first appointment where we'll actually see something more than measurements and heartbeat readings. At 14 weeks, this should be the appointment where our baby becomes real, visible, undeniably present. Remember, I whisper to Lauren, leaning close enough that only she can hear, whatever we see or don't see, we're in this together. She turns her head to look at me, and I see the gratitude in her eyes. We've learned not to take any moment for granted, not to assume that hope automatically leads to happiness. But we've also learned that facing uncertainty together is infinitely better than facing it alone. Dr. Martinez applies the gel and places the ultrasound wand on Lauren's belly. The screen fills with gray and black shapes that mean nothing to me, but I watch Lauren's face as she studies the monitor with the intensity of someone reading the most important document of her life. There, Dr. Martinez says, her voice carrying the satisfaction of someone who's delivered good news countless times. Look, right there. That's your baby. She points to a shape on the screen that gradually resolves into something unmistakably human. A head, tiny arms, the curve of a spine. And then, like magic, a flutter of movement that makes Lauren gasp. Oh, she breathes, her free hand moving instinctively to her belly. Oh, Liam, look. I'm looking, but mostly I'm watching her face. The wonder, the joy, the careful hope that we've both been nurturing like a fragile flame. The baby moves again, a quick flutter that the doctor assures us is perfectly normal. And now, Dr. Martinez says, adjusting something on the machine, let's listen. The room fills with a sound I'll never forget. It's fast, rhythmic, and strong. Our baby's heartbeat, clear and steady and undeniably alive. Lauren's grip on my hand tightens, and when I look at her, tears are streaming down her face. Everything looks great, Dr. Martinez continues over the beautiful sound. Strong heartbeat, good size for gestational age. It's still too early to determine gender reliably, but everything else is developing perfectly. That's wonderful, Lauren manages through her tears, never taking her eyes off the screen. But that heartbeat. Can we hear it again? Dr. Martinez smiles and turns the volume up slightly. The strong, fast rhythm fills the room again, and I feel something tight in my chest finally release. This is real. This is happening. This is our baby, alive and growing and filling the quiet spaces that loss carved out of our hearts. Excellent, Dr. Martinez says, making notes. I'll see you again in 4 weeks. Any questions? Just one, Lauren says, her voice soft. Is it normal to be this scared and this happy at the same time? Dr. Martinez's expression gentles. After a loss? Absolutely. Those feelings are going to coexist for a while, and that's completely healthy. You're not the same people you were 3 years ago, and this isn't the same pregnancy. Trust your joy, but honor your caution too. We leave the clinic with a strip of ultrasound photos and hearts so full they feel like they might burst. In the car, Lauren holds the photos up to catch the afternoon light, studying each grainy image like it contains the secrets of the universe. I keep thinking about the timing, she says as I drive us back toward the lodge. How this baby will be born right around the anniversary of when we lost the first one. I've been thinking about that too, I admit. It feels intentional somehow. Like healing and hope happening in the same season. Do you think that's crazy? I think, I say, reaching over to take her hand, that after everything we've been through, we're allowed to find meaning wherever we can. And if that meaning includes believing that love has perfect timing, then I'm okay with that. She squeezes my fingers and settles back in her seat, one hand resting on her belly. For more weeks until we see them again. For more weeks, I agree. And then 4 more after that. One appointment at a time. One day at a time, she echoes, and I hear the peace in her voice that comes from learning that the future is built in small, careful moments rather than grand gestures and distant dreams. The Elk Ridge Community Center smells like coffee and the lavender cookies that Mrs. Sawyer brings to every meeting. Folding chairs are arranged in a circle, and the late spring sunlight streams through tall windows, casting everything in the golden glow that makes this mountain town feel like something out of a storybook. Lauren and I arrive early to set up, arranging tissues and water glasses and making sure the coffee is strong enough to fortify people for the conversations ahead. We've been co-facilitating this grief support group for 6 months now, ever since Lauren suggested that our own healing might be more complete if we could help others find their way through similar darkness. Nervous? I ask as she adjusts the placement of chairs for the 3rd time. Always, she admits with a smile. But the good kind. The kind that means we're doing something that matters. People begin arriving in 2s and 3s. Some familiar faces who've been with us since the beginning, others new to the group and carrying the particular combination of hope and skepticism that comes with trying something you're not sure will help. There's Dorothy, who lost her husband of 40 years. James, whose teenage son died in a car accident. Emma and Tom, a young couple who've been through 3 miscarriages and are trying to decide whether to keep trying. Lauren catches my eye when Emma and Tom settle into chairs across the circle from us. We see ourselves in them. The same shell-shocked expression, the same careful distance they maintain from each other even while sitting side by side. The same desperate hope that someone, somewhere, might have answers they haven't found yet. Good evening, everyone, Lauren begins, her voice warm but steady. For those who are new, I'm Lauren and this is my husband Liam. We lost a baby 4 years ago, and that loss nearly cost us everything. But we're here tonight because we've learned that grief shared is grief lessened, and healing is possible even when it feels impossible. She's gotten better at this opening over the months, finding the balance between honesty and hope that people need to hear. When we first started facilitating, she would stumble over the words "lost a baby," as if saying them out loud might make them more real. Now she speaks them with the quiet strength of someone who's learned that acknowledging pain is the first step toward healing. The evening follows its familiar rhythm. Check-ins, talking, the gentle guidance we provide when conversations veer toward places too dark to navigate alone. Dorothy tells about learning to cook for one person. James shares that he finally went through his son's room and found a letter his boy had written but never sent. Emma cries while describing the baby clothes she can't bring herself to donate. When it's time for closing thoughts, Lauren speaks directly to Emma and Tom. I want to tell you something, she says, her hand moving unconsciously to her belly. For years ago, I thought our loss meant the end of everything good in my life. I thought I was broken beyond repair, that my marriage was broken, that hope was something other people got to have. She glances at me, and I nod encouragingly. But I was wrong, she continues. Not wrong about the pain. That was real and necessary and deserved to be honored. But wrong about it being the end. Sometimes the most beautiful chapters of our lives begin with the words "after everything fell apart." Are you saying it gets easier? Tom asks, his voice raw with exhaustion. No, Lauren says gently. I'm saying it gets different. The love you have for the babies you've lost doesn't disappear. It becomes part of the foundation for whatever comes next. And what comes next might be different than what you planned, but it can still be beautiful. After the group ends and everyone has filtered out into the warm spring evening, Lauren and I walk slowly to our car. The community center is surrounded by old oak trees, and fireflies are just beginning to blink among the branches like tiny stars fallen to earth. Do you think we helped them? Lauren asks, slipping her hand into mine. I think we gave them what we needed 3 years ago, I say. Permission to grieve and hope at the same time. And proof that marriages can survive losing a baby. And proof that second chances are real, even when you think you've used up all your chances. We drive home through the mountains as darkness settles around us, past the lodge that's become the center of our shared life again, up to the small cabin we've built together on the eastern edge of the property. It's simple and comfortable and entirely ours. A place where we can be a married couple first, lodge owners second. Inside, Lauren settles onto the couch with the ultrasound photos while I make tea. This has become our evening ritual since we learned about the baby. Sitting together in the quiet, planning and dreaming and allowing ourselves to believe that this time, hope won't disappoint us. 26 weeks to go, she says as I hand her a mug. Give or take, I agree, settling beside her. Are you ready? To be parents? I have no idea. She laughs, the sound light and free. But I'm ready to find out. With you. With me, I echo, and wrap my arms around her as the fireflies continue their ancient dance outside our windows. 3 years ago, we were two broken people who thought love meant never having to face hard things alone. Now we know that love means facing hard things together, and that the most beautiful stories often begin with the words, "We survived this." Our story isn't finished. Stories like ours never really are. But sitting here with my wife in my arms and our future growing between us, I know that whatever comes next, we'll face it the way we've learned to face everything. Together, one day at a time, dancing in whatever rain comes our way. The cycle of life goes on, and for the first time in years, we're dancing with it instead of running from it. And that makes all the difference.
The end. This has been Second Chances in Elk Ridge by Susanne Ash. Copyright 2025 by Susanne Ash. Production copyright 2025 by Susanne Ash. Thanks for listening. Please like and subscribe if you want me to put more of my books on YouTube. Visit my website at www.susanneash.com for more of my books or find me on Amazon.